do, just so I know.
I just click on the bottom. There's a record button. You click on it and you just send it to the cloud, and then it'll store to your or Pratt,
Yeah,
Zoom's.
that's how we've been putting it. What I've been doing is I've been uploading it on the G Drive, and then we've been putting it on the CCBD YouTube channel and sending links, so
That's
it's
great.
easy to watch it. Yep.
Um, all right. So I guess we are still short a bunch of people, but we should just get started because we don't want to hold
Yep.
this up for everybody. Um, hey guys, welcome back. Thanks for sticking with it. We're getting down to it. We only have a few sessions left. So I was just looking at our schedule, and it looks like we have this session today, which is going to be talking about how to establish sort of your business, not business plan, but business map, like where your goals are for the next 12 to 36 months, and then what your business goals are. So we'll call these KPIs, key performance indicators. So what do you hope to achieve, and when do you hope to achieve it, and what do you deem successful in your business map? So that's going to be the topic of sort of today. Then we have another session on the 23rd in 21 days, and you're going to present that. And then we're going to start talking about creating a business projection, establishing like what your valuation is based on being a pre-revenue business, and sort of like how you make your basic financial slide of what your like potential money could be. And then we have a session on April 13th, which is our pitch session, where we are going to talk about pitching. If you guys want to practice pitching, you can, but then you're going to be working on your final pitch deck. And then on the session 8, April 22nd, it will be our live in-person pitch day. So I just want to keep you guys, aware of where our milestones and landmarks are. Carl, you want to hop in on this on anything?
Yeah, and so just as a really good rundown of what's happening, it's really exciting, and the final pitch is going to be in the library in the alumni reading room. So the third floor of the library, it's a beautiful space. There's like a podium and a big screen, and so it's like perfect for these pitches.
So yeah, so get excited about that. If anyone has any questions, feel free to ask, or you can always email Carl and I offline and just follow up if you guys have any questions or concerns or thoughts. But so we're moving sort of into the meat and potatoes of like how the businesses operate and how they work, and potentially how you make money or how much money you need to then go and make money, which is all fun. So today you're supposed to put together sort of a basic budget of what you think your business needs and sort of a plan for what your MVP would look like. So I want you guys to run through really quickly what your budgets are. Start putting your names in the chat of when you want to present, but I want you to run through really quickly like what you think your budgets would be, and then how much of that you need for your MVP. Some of you may be very lucky and can build an MVP very cheap. And if that's the case, that's awesome. Then you kind of want to think about like maybe what your next step is, because you're going to constantly be building MVPs. Like, even if you build a very successful product and or business, you're going to be testing something new, creating something new. So like getting used to the same process over and over again is really important. I'm trying to think about anything. If you aren't sure about your budget, just say, hey, I put this there. I saw this in one of the links you sent. Do I need this? And I mean, this is a very common question. And like, generally, I will say, like, when budgeting out startups, it's really important to like run as lean as possible, spend as little as possible, really focus on spending on only what's important. Businesses, that overextend themselves or make financial mistakes early can struggle to come back from them. So if you're like very careful about your dollars and cents in your budget, you're not just like, I'm going to hire a bunch of people. You probably don't need to hire people. I'm going to get an office space. You probably don't need office space. Most businesses, their biggest expenses are rent for office space and labor. So if you can keep those low, obviously you have a better chance of success. Now, if you need a brick and mortar location to prove your idea, they're gonna have to figure something out, there's no ways about it. But it all depends on how your business is gonna work and how much you need. So let's kind of go through it. And we will open it up with Hot Design Studio.
Hi Carl, hi Peter, hi Oz.
How are you?
Oh, good. And Peter, we got to make everybody able to share screen.
Oh yeah, I can do that.
Thanks, man.
Taken care of.
Thanks, buddy. Hey, Prisha.
Okay. Hello. Yeah. Okay, so I'm Dot Design Studio. I'm an interior, it's a virtual interior firm. Okay. So the budget is up. Okay, so for I'll give a background for this. So the background is that my family is already into a construction business and we already have a well set up interior studio. It's just that I have to take it into an online portal. So for me, the main cost right now would be having beforehand material resources and having a full-fledged a web application, which will require a lot of AI and VR, since it's an online interior platform. Also, this, since I've only targeted the Indian market, so even if I've said like dollar, it is converted into the INR, the Indian rupee. So the first thing is that my estimated budget I would require is around $35,000, which is mainly for application, some extension of a warehouse, and the initial material sourcing. This is obvious for me, it is kind of self-funding. Secondly, the minimum viable product would be having a prototype of an application, because I have to be thorough with my application. So I have to undergo through usability testing or A/B testing to check out how it is working and how the construction and the design of the interior will be. The prototype might range, it might start from $8,000. The staff I'll need staff for arranging the backend stuff and and materials for initial like resources what I'll require to show it on my application. And on an average, I'm expecting that approximately $500 can be spent by one customer when they visit that application, like when they starting with the basic inventory. And this is the project cost, the breakdown of the project cost. So basically the production, as I said, I have to keep on higher end because of AI, like AI and VR and everything. I need some amount for having the licenses, the labor and the material. So I have to do a right breakdown between the material and the production. That's all.
Okay, can we go back to the slide before?
Yeah. Okay, why is it not one?
So can you walk me through what the 10,000 for material would be?
So material, it's like, okay, in the first, obviously I can't have all the materials. So I would like the material as in, what we have it for tiles, what type of flooring we are using, what type of wood we are using for the furniture, the ceiling, or even like, so in India, we do not build houses with wood, we build it with wood, with cement. So that is one thing. And secondly, even including the paints, the ceiling, the door panels and everything like that, and the small items like lightings or the doorknobs or even door handles or trolleys and like that.
So now, just to be clear though, this material is material that you're stocking to provide to clients?
Yeah, if there is like, okay, so there are certain materials which are very scarce and which are available only for a certain period of time. So I want them to be exclusive, so that can be my USP, like, that it is available online and you don't have to search it, because in India, people are very cunning and they will have those materials stored in extreme remote places where the price increases.
Because I mean, like, I don't know how much of $10,000 would actually buy you enough material to complete a job.
Oh, that's where I'm sad. So the thing is that we do have, so my father's already into construction. We already have the basic materials. So that can be pulled along. And secondly, $10,000 can do wonders in India.
Okay, fair enough. I mean, you tell me, I mean, that is all I need to hear. So, because I just am assuming by thinking about cost of material here, $10,000 can't get you a tile for a kitchen in New York, Okay. And then cost of prototype, this is the prototype application?
Yes.
Okay, so, and then you also have, on your other slide, you're $15,000 for production. I assume that's production of the application?
Right.
Okay, so I do know that if you get dev done in India, it's cheaper. I would sort of think about your product as the application, VR, AR application. And I would think you'd want to build it as lean as possible on test flight, which is like the beta app launcher for Apple. Are more people on Apple or are they on there? More people are on Android in India, right?
Yeah, like it can say 50-50. So it's like it's a very challenging question. So even if I catch okay, so if I catch people from the industry, the workers, contractors, and everywhere, including if they take it to use, then I have to catch Android. But if I catch the user, as in the person whose house is going to be built, so then I have to catch Apple. That is also considered.
Okay. So that's I mean, that's tough. I mean, even with the lower cost of labor in India, I still don't see building a completely functioning app on both platforms for under, I don't know, 25,000 US. I mean, in the United States, to build an app like this, it'd be hundreds of thousands of dollars.
Yeah, so I know it's gonna be building an app, and I know 25,000 is a huge thing in it's a huge thing in India, because India is like tech city. So we have got applications.
Okay.
If you want, you can build an application as cheap as in like around $1,500 too.
Okay. I would just, and then but the question is, how well does it work? Does it do everything you want it to do? All right. So, I mean, one thing I would do just for your own clarity of your mind is go get quotes from some app developers. And I
Yes.
wouldn't call them staff. You said staff to build the app. I would say I wouldn't call them staff. They're just contractors that you're hiring. So I would have a contract app development fee, and then I would have the rest of the business launching fee. And the one thing I'm not seeing here is marketing. How do you get people to use this?
Oh, okay. I did miss out on that.
Yeah. So
I'll
like
get back to you on that.
most startups, you don't have a lot of staff, you don't have a lot of overhead like rent, but you need marketing and sales funnels. How do you get customers? So like that's the big question. How do you get customers to start using your product? So you could spend $500,000 building an app, but if you don't have a plan to get customers to use it, it doesn't matter, right?
Right. Agreed.
Okay. So think about that and start working that into the budget and the MVP, okay?
Peter,
Yeah.
I have a question for you. Can we go back to your budget for a second? And this came up in class this morning. No one prices in their own labor. And so my question is, do you price in your own labor so that then what if you then hire someone to do the labor that you were doing at the beginning as you scale? How do you
It
account
depends.
for
I
that?
mean, so you hiring people is important, and you only want to hire when you have the money to do it, but you're not really paying yourself. Very
Yeah.
few startups, the person that's running it is paying themselves to start it.
Okay, so you don't price in anything for yourself. Everything is for.
I mean, if you're raising capital from an investor, you need to live, and if they're
Right.
giving you money, you can put in salaries.
Okay.
And in that salary slice, your salary is included. But you don't want to have like a founder salary that's whatever. Right.
Right. Then you're paid last.
And you're not billing your own hourly rates. You're not like, well, I'm $200 an hour and I'm charging, so I need $10,000 a week or a month, so you can book, obviously a salary is a part of a budget. You need salaries for people.
Right.
And you pay yourself out of that salary, but you're always the last to get paid and the first to get cut when there's no money to be paid.
Okay, great.
Yeah. And hopefully it all works out and you just get cashed out with all your equity,
Yeah, for this class more than any other, Peter's gonna run the show on this one because this is definitely not my expertise.
And I mean,
So-
all of these things they're all sort of, this is all speculation. How much do I think I need, So, all right.
Great.
Next.
Thank you.
No problem. Good job.
Sorry, I'll just share my screen. Okay, can you see my screen?
Not yet.
Okay,
Hold on.
Okay.
There
Now
it is.
it's
Yep.
fine.
Got
Yep.
okay. So we were doing GeoTarget. Our app was to give location-based triggers, which can be customized by people. So this is our estimated budget, and so in 6 to 8 weeks, which is our MVP period, we'll do the beta version of the app, which will mostly be just creating maps for self-use and your friends, and we'll also provide some preloaded maps. And for that, we need $14,800. And for a more developed, after getting the feedback from people, we'll integrate more features such as credit card integration, customized alerts to be sold like a marketplace, and splash screen, password protection, and many more things. So this is a rough cost breakup. I'll first go with MVP. So in MVP, we were thinking of going LLC just to set up. So that's why the cost for it was zero. For development of application, we thought that we can outsource it to India, and when we use that, one of the links that was provided, by taking 2 interns, this is what it will cost. And also to launch the app on Apple and Android platforms, it was coming out to be a little under 200, so we rounded off to 200. And for marketing, we put 5,000 because we thought that we will start by 500, like in a close vicinity of 500 people, and we'll offer them by giving them a $10 gift card or something. And in the full timeline for 20 weeks, we thought 500 for business setup. And because the time is more, so human capital increases, and because it will be a full version, so we thought somebody for UI UX would be needed. And for marketing, we researched that Google ads cost somewhere between $1,000 to $10,000. So roughly initially we thought we'll start with 1,000 and then move upwards. So for MVP, we will not get any money. And the reason being is that we want to gain trust from people and make sure that they are going to use it and get a good feedback from them. For cost to operate, we checked that it's around $3,000 per year to store data, because we are going to store data which can be sold in the future. And initially, we started with $10 cost. And then we realized that eventually, like, it will take us 3 years to actually start earning proper profit. But initially, we'll be in break even only. Yeah, that's all.
Okay. Let me just sort of go. Can we start back from the beginning and let me just kind of go through this and try to chew it through? So good job starting to lay out your timeline. Everyone that's doing digital products, and I know some of you already started showing some screenshots and stuff. We're gonna definitely want to see those when we see our final presentations. I think you already showed us some already. So, okay, 1480. And you know, and you have a partner on this, correct? Who also does app development?
Yes.
Okay. What's your reason for wanting to open both on Apple and Android?
Because when we were taking our surveys, we realized that we have a mixed group of users, and it's almost equal.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just know from experience with friends who run very successful app businesses that like they will wait till they're at $1 million in profit. Sometimes they'll like just run on Apple and then switch over. It's hard to manage both because you have to keep updating both simultaneously to keep up with the restrictions and requirements. Every time, you know, Android runs an update or Apple runs an update, you have to update your app. You know?
Yes.
So it gets time intensive and cost intensive, especially if you're outsourcing it.
Okay. Got it.
Okay, can we go to the next slide?
Yes.
So you're assuming that you're gonna. So it says development of application, human capital. Are you guys doing it, or are you outsourcing it to interns, or what were you saying?
So yes, so we thought that initially we will need 2 people because, and we were thinking of outsourcing it to India because the labor is cheap over there. So this is what we calculated from those rates. And just to overlook and check for any glitches, my partner, he will look into it and confirm.
Okay.
So yeah, he says it will be too tiring. Yeah.
No, I'm fine. I mean, I'm fine with, you know, I've had apps built 70% of the way in Eastern Europe, so I understand how it works. So now, do you have any part in your budget line for like, you know, you're gonna launch an MVP app, you're gonna get it out there in people's hands, probably launch, I mean, I would suggest if I were you guys, before launching on both platforms, a fully operational app is getting a test flight app up and running and getting
Okay.
into people's hands and getting feedback. So you're
Mhm.
gonna have a few rounds of R&D using the app, collecting the data, and then adjusting it before
Okay.
I would go to a final V1, you know, alpha version.
Got it. Yeah.
So
So
I would
yeah.
definitely build in like time, like learning and feedback cycle time, for
Mhm.
sure. Especially with, I mean, with app, and the one nice thing about apps is they're so great that you can make quick changes to them. So you can build something, you can test it, you can change.
Yeah.
But what sucks is you always have to be working on it. It's not
Yeah.
like you build a product, you sell it to the market, you sell that product for 50 years and that life is great, you know? Nothing's
Mhm.
changing in a Scrub Daddy sponge, whether,
Yeah.
unless it becomes like a cat or something.
Yeah.
Your marketing budget, you said 1,000, I see 15,000 here.
Sorry, for Google Ads, it's between $1,000 to $10,000
Okay.
for
And
1
that's
month.
buying, SEO, running ads, controlling that part of it. Okay.
Yeah.
Your marketing looks dead on to me. I mean, marketing is the biggest part. You need people using this, you know. I would go try to do it as cheap as possible and as guerrilla as possible as well.
Okay.
And I think that the UX UI part of it, you might be able to get, if you find a good enough development place that can do the back end, you might be able to find a place that can do the front end as well.
Okay. Yeah.
But, you know, 1,600 is actually very low to do the front end of an app, but.
Yeah. So 1,600 is only because we wanted to be there for 2 weeks. So for each human capital, we've also divided it by time individually. Yeah.
Okay.
So we
Cool.
just need UI UX for 2 weeks.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think of more of as like by project fee. Like if you came to me and said, hey, I want you to develop, you know, a look feel interface and how it works. And then, you know, if I was a UX UI designer, I'd be like, I'm not taking a job for under $5,000, you know, but you know, that's just my thoughts. All right. And then next.
So I just want to ask everybody, starting now, when you start, give us the brief 15-second pitch for your idea, just so that we remember the title and what it does. What is the purpose of it?
Product to be sold for profit. And then your sales is 25,000 approximate, right? $25,000 USD, right?
Yes.
Okay. So it's not like you're not going to break even, but you will start making money if you can get people to start using it.
Yes, exactly.
And you're going to be offering a paid version and an unpaid version, or just a paid version?
Unpaid version for self-use, like when you're using it for yourself, when you're storing places for yourself, and paid version if you want to share your plans, like a tour plan or something with someone else, then that will be the paid version.
So that was going to be my question: is the cost of the product, the $10, is that reoccurring or is it one time?
Reoccurring.
So I'm paying monthly $10 for this.
No, not monthly, depends. Like if you really want to go somewhere, like suppose if you want to go for a tour in New York, you won't visit New York every week, like somebody who's coming from outside. So when they come to New York and they are there for just 1 day and they want to see some places, so then they can go browse through different plans which other people have sold. For that, for each plan, to unlock the plan, basically they'll spend $10.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think about how the sales funnel works. So, you know, I'm using it, you know, because I have a lot of apps on my phone. Most of them I don't use. Why am I going to open your app? What do I have to pay for? How does the sales funnel work? Once, as a customer, once I see, oh, this is cool, I want to be able to download this. And then I'm like, oh, there's you know, maybe they're different prices. Maybe, you know, I can get like a week's worth for 25, you know, of New York for different things. Or like just like an afternoon's worth for a little cheaper, you know, type thing. Sort of like, you know, how you buy tour packages already if you're visiting a city. So, yeah, just think about how that sales structure works and how you get customers into your sales funnel and how they come out the other end. Okay.
Okay. Yes. Makes sense.
All right. Very nice.
Thank you.
Carl, do you have any thoughts?
Oh, sorry.
I was just gonna ask everyone, I don't know if my microphone was on. Please, when you introduce yourself, just remind us of the name of your product and give us like a 15-second pitch about like what problem it's solving or what its purpose is. That's super helpful just because we haven't seen each other in 3 weeks.
Okay.
All right, good job. Finn.
Cool. Let's get going. Can you guys see my screen?
Yeah.
Yes.
Perfect. All right, everybody. So I am Finn Evans here with Get Stoked. This is the interdisciplinary street sports magazine created to unite all street sports and get other athletes excited. So I took a more visual route with my MVP. I am thankful that I don't have to produce a huge app. I'm just working on something that's small and handheld. So that's a limited run of 100 pilot issues, 24-page print, 8.5 by 11 size. And it would include just a feature of 3 main sports: skateboarding, parkour, and BMX. Here's what the inside would look like as well as the cover. For the cost of this, it's totaled up to $635, and that's printing, shipping, and delivery of all this stuff. The margin of profit would be $8.65. I'd sell them at $15, and these would be like just the super rough, limited pages, just to get an idea of would want a magazine like this in the skateboarding, parkour, BMX community, and what kind of buzz it would bring. So my total budget would be $1,175, and that's for the first 6 months. That includes setting up a website, having a hub where people can see my stuff and what I'm doing going on, and social media promotion, as well as the printing costs. So lastly, before I hand you off, I wanted to talk about breaking even. It would be right here, the cost to make this money back through selling the magazines at $15. And the only overhead that I'm really expecting is the $35 for the website, because I'm doing this from my own house with my own time. Yeah, that's
Okay.
my
Let's go back to the slide where you're showing the printing at 100 issues at 100 units.
here.
So your cost to print 1 issue is $635.
Yeah.
Have you found any better pricing on that? That seems really high.
Yes, this is a super like middle of the road / higher end estimate, because a lot of the prices of various printing companies varied a ton, and that's why I have like a separate delivery fee too, because some of them didn't include like a shipping thing. So some of them were as low as like $200. Some of them were like around $500.
The $200 for ship out, is that you shipping out to customers?
Yes, yeah,
So
packaging
you're
and all
not,
that
you're
stuff.
not going to charge your customers shipping and handling?
Well, that's one thing I wanted to ask you guys about as well, is what should I include?
Are you Amazon?
No.
Then you're going to charge them shipping.
Even Amazon has started charging shipping.
Yeah, and even Amazon started
Interesting.
charging shipping. So yeah, I mean, I would try to get this cost down. You said how many pages?
24, super slim.
24, high gloss, full print. I think you can get this for cheaper than $635 per
Okay.
issue. And I would try to find, obviously you wanted to go quality. I would try to get it down. If your goal is a $15 price point, I would want to see you buying these at $2 to $3.
Cool. Okay.
Because that'll give you a decent profit margin, because where you really are not focusing on, and keep going back to your next slide.
Yeah.
Yeah, next. Is your social promotion is $70. I mean, you might as well just take $70, light it on fire on TikTok, and you'll get more views. So,
Definitely.
buying Instagram ads, TikTok ads. TikTok actually is the most bang for the buck right now. They're expensive. You have to create A and B ad testing, which means you try 2 different things and see which ones come back. I bet you've talked about this in ComD. And your website for $420, is that to build it?
Yeah. That's a year's worth of a website at $35.
Okay, I'll buy that. Okay, cool. your social promotion needs to be way higher. So like,
Definitely.
I don't like seeing like, you know, your production I know is going to be expensive. So $400, I'll take that. But I want to see you ask for $3,000 and have 2,000 of it or 1,500 of it be for marketing.
Okay.
I want you to market the crap out of this. I want you to sell out of those first 100 issues before they even come off the printing press.
Gotcha.
So like
So
that's yeah, go ahead.
okay. I was just gonna say that's my next question is like this is something that would be developed into like a quarterly publication, and so there'd be like a spike in people buying it at the start of each quarter, right? So
Yep.
how could I factor that into a budget and like make the money that I do get in the first like few weeks that the magazine's made last?
Well, the goal is to sell out of the magazines immediately to make it in such high demand that you have 100 of these issues and people are going to want to get their hands on it. So
Yeah,
you
okay.
want to sell on sense of urgency that there's only 100. You're only doing it every quarter. People need to be excited. So that's all telling a story, marketing, getting other people, you know, getting influencers that you may know from the industry. You know, maybe you write articles about them or whatever. But if you're doing this limited of production of something like this, you should be able to blow it out every single time you launch something.
Cool. Okay.
Next, go to your next slide. Yeah.
Yeah.
So your monthly overhead. So you're gonna have production. It says 3 zines a month, but I assume you mean per year. What is that?
That's just to cover like that's how many zines would make $35 at 15.
Oh, okay.
Like at the
Okay,
very
yeah.
least. Yeah. That's not
Yeah.
ultimately super necessary, but
Yeah, I mean, I think your budget's really low. I think, and that's fine. That's good. That means we have a lot of wiggle room. How would you launch this?
so making first an Instagram page, like that would be the most minimum of the MVPs I could make, and start basically running articles as posts to gain attraction, and then start selling like the physical print and pitching that like it's limited, super high quality, a lot of stuff that's never been seen before in it, and then from that kind of build up like a 3 monthly.
Yeah, I mean,
Kind of
the thing
course.
about it is because this is limited, it's not that expensive. It's pretty, you know, you could definitely use pre-order models, crowdfunding models, any of
Yeah.
those models where you like build a following and say, hey, guess what? We're gonna launch something really cool. We're only gonna make 100 of them. Do you want it? Sign up here. You could even take deposits, you know.
Okay.
You know, gonna retail, and if you can drive that kind of hype for it, you could probably sell for more than $15. The one thing I'll say is like, let's say you do build some sort of great marketing and customer acquisition channel where you're getting a lot of traction and people are really interested, and you post that you're going to make 100 of these for $15 and they sell out in 10 minutes. This is good news.
Yeah.
That means your price too low, you know?
Mm,
So like, then the next time you'd even go up, you know, you'd be like, hey, we sold out those out so quick. This next round, we're going to be $20, you know, and you
Yeah.
just keep raising your prices until people stop buying them immediately. Or you end up, you know, in a situation where it's in demand, you know, like things like Supreme and Misfit and Mischief and all that. But
right.
I think overall, like you're just, you know, I would up my marketing budget, and I'd also add 20% in my production budget for mistakes.
Okay, cool.
And that's like a
That's
very
a-
low safety net,
Yeah.
you know, because you may
Yeah,
produce
that's
100
fair.
and they're all bad. You have to produce 100 more or something, you know. I don't know,
Right. That's a good point.
you know. So
Cool.
okay, Carl, got
Perfect.
any
Thank you.
comments?
No, I think you know, great job, and it just seems super low. And I know that marketing is like 40 to 60% of the initial budget on these type of products. So it's
Yeah.
exactly what Peter said.
Yeah, because
Cool.
I mean, you know, you got to stand out from the crowd, and you know, guerrilla marketing can work. So all right,
Yeah.
very nice.
Sweet.
Work.
Thank you guys.
Next up, bag holder.
Hello. Okay,
guys.
let me try to share this because I'm using my iPad.
Okay.
Can you guys see it?
Yep.
Okay. Hello, everyone. My name is Shuhao, and we are making a wearable bag holder which is our first product we're going to sell. And right now we are making the upgrade onto this product to make it have better looking, using better material and a better operation to adjust the length of the strap. So about our plan, our first goal is to introduce our wearable bag holder to people with disabilities, which we need a user testing for this product, which we initially might need 25 to 30 prototypes and 25 to 30 people to do the user testing, which we can then make the improvement. And then the estimated budget to start this business, I would say $100,000. And
tell me why.
Sorry?
Tell me why.
You can see why in the like later on. I will try to like make the explanation. Okay, so how much will this first product cost to launch? So after the user testing and the adjustment, right now my partner give me a little range of the cost of each wearable bag holder. It's about 28.92 cents dollars, which is about 200 RMB. And as we are keep developing this product, the cost will go a little higher, which around I think $35 to $45. And after, if the user testing goes pretty well, we will make the quantity of 1,000 of them and then try to sell them locally in New York. So we didn't want to like go too broad at the first. So the estimated cost will be $60,000. That is $55,000 plus overhead that might add up to it. And this is how much money we will generate, we will make. So the margin will be approximately 33%, which I'm not sure is this good enough for us. And this is how our money will be used. We'll use like 60% to keep the development and prepare for the next round of sale. And we are going to separate 20% of it to make connections and make the ads to spread out our information. And then the 10% we will pay for the labor for people who are like assembling our parts. And the 10% we will pay for us to feed ourselves.
Okay. All right, I have a lot of questions. So you're $90 MSRP.
$90 for what?
For your retail pricing.
Oh,
You're
yeah,
selling
yeah.
the product for $90.
Yeah.
And you're making it for $28?
No, this is approximately cost of our like current prototypes. So we are not really sure how much the cost would be. So it might be between $35 to $45 per each.
I mean, I'm not gonna say $100,000 is low because honestly, it's you know, to really launch a product, it's actually pretty accurate. But how you're using it doesn't make any sense. So what, I mean, you know, if you look at the homework sheet, I sort of put a whole breakdown of pricing out of consumer packaged good. So how many prototypes are you building at $28?
Right now, we are planning
You
to
said
make
25, you said 25 prototypes, right?
Yeah, for the final
So
prototype.
that's $725. And then you said you want to build 1,000 of them, right? Once you've
Yeah.
tested your prototypes.
Yes.
And my guess is, you know, at $90 divided by 7, that gives you guys a $12, $13 cost of goods. So times 1,000, that's $13,000 in production cost landed in the States. Do you have a mold fee? Is there gonna be any molding or like custom tooling?
Yeah, we might have to do that.
So let's just throw in, to be safe, $25,000 in custom tooling. So that's
25,000.
That's just I mean, you know, it could be anywhere between 5 to 25. It depends. I haven't looked at your molds. All right. So that puts our landed cost in, and then we still got to get it shipped FOB. So we're assuming that $13 is built in there. So that means we're landing 1,000 units here in the United States for $38,000 bucks. All right. Now you said you're only going to sell it in New York. Well, I mean, you have 1,000 units ready to ship out. Why would you only sell it in New York?
Because we are not sure like how the people will like accept this kind of product.
Well, that's about telling a story, man. That's a, you know, so I mean, essentially, I would put another 20,000 in, you know, 10 to 20 for your marketing budget and that would be online marketing. I would sell it anywhere where people would buy it, except, you know, maybe don't ship overseas, but Canada, United States at least. So that puts you at 58,000. You said people putting it together. Who's going to be putting it together?
Oh, the labor area. That part we are not sure yet, because we are like assembling everything by ourselves.
Yeah. So, but if you're building it overseas, you're going to have it all built by a vendor. They're going to assemble it, package it, and ship you the box. Right. And
Yeah.
then all you have to do is put it in the mail to whoever orders it.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm at 58,000 so far in marketing, in prototypes, marketing, production. Put another 5,000 in business development, and I'm not paying you. You'll pay yourself off the profits.
Yeah.
You know, so I would say 63 wouldn't be unreasonable for you to ask for, but you could do this for much cheaper. So if you took this on crowdfunding, you're not going to sell 1,000, you may sell 100. Then but you could sell enough to cover your production run.
Oh.
So, you know, if you sold 100, you know, at $90, on Kickstarter, that would be $9,000 raised right there. That would almost cover your production run. Now, you know, so I'm just saying like your numbers don't make not sense, but just saying $45,000 for overhead. Like if I'm an investor, I'm like, overhead what? Do you have an office?
Oh no, that's plus overhead. The overhead should be around 15,000.
But overhead for what? What are you? Do you have an office?
No.
And are you going to have full-time employees?
This area, like, we're really not sure about. So just kind of.
I'm just asking the questions to get you thinking. If I was an investor, these are questions I would ask. The numbers I would want you to show me are the cost to build your prototypes, the cost to test your prototypes, the cost to do a production run, land it in the United States, and then the cost to market it and sell it to your customer. That's all I'd want to see.
Okay.
And then I'd want to know, of that production run, of that 10,000 units you make, if you're selling it at $90, how much is your profit, right? Which is $90,000, which is $90,000 if you sell it all through. And if you have, you know, a budget of, you know, I've kind of got it here, you know, with marketing at 58,000, you know, we take that 58,000 out, that gives you a net profit of $32,000. As an investor, it's not like great news, but it means that you're break even in your first production run if you can get customers to buy it. Okay.
Yeah.
So like, just be careful about how you talk about it, because savvy people who understand business and money are going to ask you very tough questions. So get granular and be accurate.
Okay.
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 All right.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Cheers. If anyone has any questions about how I do this, feel free to ask. Most of this is just like, I've been doing it for a very long time.
Peter, how do you do this?
No, so I mean, it was written in the assignment, but with products, it's pretty easy to work backwards. It's lemonade stand economics. You're not carrying a lot of overhead or debt at this point. So it's not like you have to like balance like your employment fees and labor and your rent. You're figuring out how much product you can make at what cost and how much you can sell for, and then what the difference is.
Right.
If you grow beyond that and you make a bunch of money and you start adding employees and office space, then it gets a little more complicated. But right now it's very straightforward mathematics. And as I call lemonade stand mathematics, how much does it cost for the lemons, the sugar, and to rent the equipment from your parents, if they charge you, and they should, and then how much did you make after you paid all that off, right?
Right.
So with products, it's easy. With digital products, it's a little tougher because who knows what we're really selling. All right, next, dear creators.
Yep.
All right, so just to start ourselves off, who we are, we're Dear Creators. We are a creative platform for networking. We aim to help creatives connect with one another and provide a space where they can have collaborative opportunities and also social opportunities and expand their networks. So our MVP, we classified like what we did before the class, like our website and our members' applications to being our MVP. So we have had over 450 site members and sold out meetups and over $10,000 in total sales. So we'd like to kind of view that as our MVP, and then moving forward, how are we adapting that to our next steps is in our beta version of our app. So in the next slide, we have a mock-up of our beta version. The reason why we found that to move to an app platform would be the best for us because between the 463 members that we had, 436 of them actually downloaded the Wix website app to provide them with an easier way to navigate through our platform that we created on the Wix website. And this is just an example of what the profiles would look like. On the actual Wix website, people did have an opportunity to build their profiles and were entered into group chats with other members, but the navigation through the website was not as seamless as we would like it to be. So this is what our app would kind of look like.
Moving over to budgeting, I think I'm going to get some critique in terms of the app development based on the previous comments I got, but I would like to phrase it by saying that these are actual quotes that were presented based on our products from Turkish agencies. And this includes, this is just for our MVP, which still functions as a social media platform, but we did decide to go with iOS only since that's what we found the majority of our users use. And the timeline we were given was 6 to 9 months for the development. Our marketing cost is also super low. I think we are a little bit confident in that area because of our contacts within the social media realm, but we would like to use most of our marketing money for launching events because it relates back to what our MVP was. And lastly, lawyer fees. From platform policies to user agreements. The reason we gave a range for everything is to really understand how we can do it if we want to go as cheap as possible versus how we could complete it on the more expensive side. Because, for example, even with the app development, there was a range from different companies for our product. So for the first 6 months, our model would be free subscription because we don't want people to be discouraged by not finding enough members, events, services on our platform and give them time to navigate it. And we would get a 3% service fee on services and events, which was based on our research on platforms like Eventbrite and Fiverr. And then following the 6-month period, which might not be long enough, we would start implementing a subscription. And our KPIs, the main thing would really be the member count, the subscribers, and then event tickets and services sold. I did not mean to show that one. We are working on the projection right now based on these numbers.
Yeah, you're
But
already
it's
ahead.
honestly
Good job.
hard to navigate.
No, you're already ahead. So let's just go back. Let's go back to your budget. All right, so your app development, so they said 6 to 9 months. What does that give you in 6 to 9 months? Is that a app fully listed on the App Store, or is that a test flight beta version that you're just running out to a handful of your members? You're taking
Test flight
45 of
beta
your 450 members or trusted members and testing it with them.
Yeah, test flight beta version for sure. Like even if they said it was ready to launch, I think we would want to use it with our group of people that already know and love our brand and mission.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. I think as cheap as you can get that first one on test flight and into the hands of your super users or whatever we want to call them, your first adopters, super users to get data and feedback. If that's 8 to 15, anywhere in there, that's pretty good. So if you can get that done, event launching, I think you're going to be well over a 1 to 2K budget, especially in the United States, if you really want to throw a good event.
We are
So
hoping
you-
that there would be opportunities for like sponsorships with a lot of those events, not only
Sure.
just for like generation for cash flow, but also to bring in more attention for those events, like collaborating with other brands that align with us.
I agree completely. The biggest problem is that you may have to carry things like insurance,
Yeah.
or depending on how big the events are, and it depends how many you want to have, obviously you guys said you have a pretty good contact in UGC, so awesome.
Yeah.
Go
Both of
nail
us
that.
have over 10,000 followers on TikTok on our own. And then we
Yeah.
also have like a lot of
Yes.
connections within the
Yeah.
industry. So
So
we're
does
hoping
everyone
that would be.
does everyone know what UGC is on here?
No, what's that?
User generated content. It's like when people on TikTok are talking about, I love, my favorite one to talk about is Liquid Death, because they like completely used UGC to like the maximum and just like gave every single podcaster just Liquid Death everything. So that's what everyone's paying for now is UGC. So it's very expensive if you don't know people, but if you know people, it's great. Social media paid ads, they can get really, really expensive very quickly to get, because you're going to put $10 on an ad and you're going to test it. And if that ad works, you're going to want to put $1,000 or $100 on it. And especially if you're trying to get people that are in a time sensitive way. Now, I wouldn't run ads until you have an app that's working the way you want it to work. So, I wouldn't try to drive traffic to an app that's going to be super clunky. Like I'd wait to get it, like my first version, check it, then get a second version and then drive people there. But you may want to drive people to an event and get them to sign up for the beta, so there's like a delicate balance there that you have to think about.
Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say during the app development process of 6 to 9 months, our goal would be to keep our MVP version going, because as you saw in our previous pages, we only ran it for about 4.5 months and then froze all operations when I left the US. But we would start running it back up. To
Yeah, turn it
hopefully
back
gain
on,
more
make some money.
traction.
That'll help you. That means that you're not paying everything out of pocket. All right, so to get this app up and running and in people's hands in 9 months is $25,000.
15 is what they.
No, I meant like all of this, like get it up and
Totally.
running and like generating income. You're thinking $25,000?
I think 25 sounds good.
If you can do that, you guys, so it seems really low to me. I mean, I would imagine a lot more. Now, I know that I know you're both tenacious. I know you're both plugged into your industry. I know you've already tested your MVP. So maybe you're right. I would be really curious. Your MVP made $10,000 in how long?
4 months.
Okay. I mean, that covers your expense to build your app. So you may
Yes.
not need investors. You may be able to bootstrap. It depends how big you want it to be, I guess. You with me on this one?
Yeah, definitely. It's
Or
just
you
a
take that
decision to make.
$10,000 or what is it? That $2,500 you're making a month on your MVP and you dump it right back into marketing and see how much, little sales funnel, get people into it and see how many people come out as members of Dear Creators app world,
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, and I also would like to mention we spent like almost no money on marketing on that MVP version, maybe like $50 in total, honestly.
wow. Wow. Well, if you spend $50 and you built it yourself and you're making $2,500 a month on it, that's incredible.
It was nice.
And I know that you're diligent and know how to use spreadsheets and keep good tracking and get quotes. So I'll
It was
trust you
really
guys.
due to the connections that we had within the industry that a lot of why we were able to do the marketing for very like low cost.
But also the development. Yeah.
Okay.
We'll see.
Yeah. Network equals net worth. So good job. Your KPIs
you.
and your roadmap. We're going to do that for the next assignment.
Yes, maybe I can, maybe I can send you over something for what I was thinking in terms of calculating growth projection and revenue
Okay,
projection.
And that'll be the following class, but keep working ahead. I don't care.
Oh, okay.
Carl, you have any questions?
I was just wondering, how did you develop these connections and stuff, like for advice for other people? You know, it's really impressive how you both are doing. Like, what did you do? Like, do you have any tips?
Well, in terms of social media, it's interesting because a lot of them started out as like just reaching out, wanting to be friends with people we thought we were cool, who
Yeah, like,
already were
we had a
saying
third
work. And a
business
lot of
partner.
them, yeah, you would be very surprised about how friendly so many people are and how they're gonna say yes to like meeting up and just, having coffee and discussing ideas.
Well, it's like just like Peter's a great example where he's just connected to so many people because he's always looking for opportunities to like hook somebody up with like a job or a connection or whatever. And I think it comes down to value add, right? And it sounds like, I would guess you two are thoughtful in not only what's good for you, but also how you can add value in somebody else, right? And that probably leads to a lot of this.
Mhm. And maybe I can add one more thing on this. Actually, our best influencer contacts we met as customers for our events. They came as customers, like this top girl who has over 3 million followers, for example, who would help us out. And I think the key point is really like people who are passionate about what you're doing will find you also. You just have to make sure it's out there and you keep pushing content out there, even if it's not like getting any views at that time. Because I just watched this Shark Tank pitch. It's called Long Table and it's a pancake company. I don't know if you saw it yet, but like celebrities were vouching for it, like famous actors, even though, and because they found them as a product and not because they're paid to be there.
That's
It
amazing.
was interesting. They
Yeah.
didn't get no investment though.
And it sounds like they're going to be doing just fine.
They're going to be just fine though with that free publicity right there.
Just remember that the guy who founded
Exactly.
Ring Doorbells didn't get funded on Shark Tank, and now he's a shark. So, all right.
All right, and it looks like Todd has joined us. So our speaker, it's nice to see you, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Is this still a good time?
This is fantastic.
Nice. Did everybody wrap up? Is everyone done?
Well, we'll finish right after this, but you know what happens is we get through as much of the groups as we can, and then we just take care of the rest. So it's no problem whatsoever.
Nice. Well, yeah, I hope my background, I know Carl's, giving you a little information about me, but I started a mobile canning company. So I hope my background, my story adds some light. I mean, it was 10, 15 years ago, I was sitting in your shoes thinking about what I wanted to do, what business I wanted to start. Now, fast forward, I've been running my own business for 7 years. I started working at NYU. I went to school in University of Wisconsin-Madison and started working in NYU after college. And then I got a job at NYU. So while I was there, I was able to, get them to pay for a master's degree in technology. So I spent most of my time prior to starting my business doing that. So when I first got out of college, I had a degree in economics. So I focused primarily in finance and accounting. So when I got out of undergrad, I realized there wasn't much for work in economics. So I got a job in accounting. And I told the story this morning, it was pretty interesting, but I was working as a financial analyst and my manager gave me a stack of paper. Man, it must've been like 3 inches thick. And they asked me to enter it into the system. So turns out there's like a 12-person data entry team. Well, I had, worked on similar projects and I said, I can work with the technology team and we can import this data and, we don't need to actually enter the information. So as soon as I said that, everyone kind of froze up and they gave me a month's severance and asked me to leave that day. So they were really worried about their jobs and, more or less asked me to leave. So here I am, 20, 21 years old, and I'm getting paid for a month. So I'm like, oh, I'm going to, move from Minnesota to New York City. So I just bought a flight for the next morning, packed up a couple duffel bags, told my parents I'm heading out, and, crashed on a friend's couch and just started waiting tables. And then I got a job at NYU as a financial analyst, and, kind of all moved from there. But ever since I was little, I'd think about starting my own business. What do I want to do? I mean, I still think about it every day. Even though I have my own business, I still think about what I'm going to do next. So it's fun hearing all your stories and, going through the mechanics of how to think through the business plan. And so I love hearing about it. So if you have any specific questions, Peter, you're doing an awesome job. But if you have any questions for me, I'm happy to answer.
So just to clarify, so basically what you're saying is your first job as an analyst, they gave you a stack of data entry, and you basically were like, well, I can just create an automation which will save an insane amount of time and labor. And that freaked people out because that meant people are going to become redundant. And so then they just go, okay, keep quiet.
Exactly.
Here's a month's salary.
Yeah.
That's basically what happened.
Basically escorted me to the door.
Okay, and so then, as I understand it, and you can correct me if I'm wrong.
It wasn't that dramatic, but I was like, there's no way I'm entering this data.
Yeah. And so then you basically were at NYU and you figured out that technology was like the key, and you were creating automation for the payment system where you were working with a consulting firm.
Yeah, so I first moved into NYU for this at the Student Health Center, implemented a medical record system. I was the lead on the billing and payment side. So that really inspired me to get into technology, transitioning from finance accounting into the technology side. At that point, I switched roles within NYU into the IT department and application development. So I spent another 3 years in application development for NYU. And turns out, they'll pay for your school. So that's why I went back for my master's in technology. And during that time, I was working on a payroll HR project alongside Accenture consultants for 1.5 years, 2 years. And, I just made a good impression on them. And they said, hey, if you ever want to leave NYU, come join us at Accenture. And I think it was probably a couple days after I received my diploma, I called them up and I said, I'm ready to go. And then I got a job a couple months later. So I moved into Accenture doing large scale technology implementations. And then, with my business finance background, they moved me into like a business strategy group. So it was a small group of about 60 people. And we would go in and answer questions like American Express, for example, needed to save $700 million a year. And that's the question they present our team. And now we have to come up with creative ways to do it. So one of the things we did at American Express is anything over $1 million has to go through a vetting process and a committee. So we set up a group of people to review, similar to what this class is doing right now, similar in terms of the information provided, high level summary, and folks within the organization had to pitch it to a group of 6 or 8 people. What is it going to do? How much is it going to cost? Who's involved? What are the risks? When are you going to see money? First day of cash flow, that type of stuff. And it's really similar to what we're doing now. And that's what we did for American Express. So it's really pretty cool stuff. What I saw, I was just listening on a few of these, and it looks fantastic. So.
And so then, Todd, as you were telling me, you worked on a project and that led to the inspiration to do the business that you're currently going to tell us about. So
so one of the cool things as a consultant, you can pick your project. So I picked one working for Coca-Cola. So Coca-Cola bought up all of their bottle canning distribution rights for the US. And then a few years later, sold them all back to different territories. So for example, the Chicago territory had a price tag of $100 million. So any company could bid for the rights to can, bottle Coca-Cola in the Chicago territory if they can come up with $100 million. And then I spent my time at Coca-Cola running through all the details from HR, finance, IT, distribution, warehousing, bottle canning, mapping everything out. You know, there were sometimes groups of 30 or 40 people in rooms just mapping out the different processes. And at the end of the day, it's like I became an expert in consumer goods, beverages. So now you fast forward and I'm sitting at a local brewery in Long Island City, Queens, and I'm asking them why they don't can their beer. And they say the canning equipment's too expensive. So it turns out canning equipment's about $200,000. So for a small startup brewery, you know, you're talking like MVP, like that's not in an MVP business model, like a $200,000 single piece of equipment. So I just asked the owner, I'm like, hey, if I get a group of, 3 or 4 breweries together, will you let me do your canning? And they said, absolutely. So I put together a simple, probably 15-slide business plan and took it to a banker at Chase Bank. And, you know, it wasn't more than a couple conversations. He said, you know, it's a great idea. And, you know, more or less gave me, you know, a blank check for $250,000. And, you know, obviously I had the, what you guys are working on in this class, I had the details mapped out of what I was going to spend it on and when I was going to spend it.
So basically, before you ever touched a mobile canning unit, before you even knew if you could do it, and before you had any kind of guarantees that it would work, you took out $250,000 to buy this piece of equipment that you've never used before.
Yeah, I just sold them on an idea, and I kind of sold myself on the idea. It was really an excuse to get out of Accenture, and it just seemed like a fun project. One cool thing is, as I'm listening to these pitches, it's a lot easier to get loans for assets. So, for example, my canning equipment, it's what we call asset backed. So if, let's say, my business model turns out it doesn't work, worst case is the bank can sell it on, say 50 cents on the dollar and recoup some of their loss. So majority of my business loan was for assets, which made it a lot faster and easier to seek funding.
Can I ask a couple questions? So
Absolutely.
There's just some points of clarification I want you to make. So you talked about how Coca-Cola bought all their canning rights back and then relisted them.
Yes.
I think it's important to explain to the students the fact that Coca-Cola does not bottle, they don't bottle their own product. And I think it's important for them to understand how that works as a business operation.
Yeah, so the whole strategy for buying up the territories and then selling them off is so that they can put in legal contracts, the KPIs. I think you guys were mentioning KPIs, the metrics that they can use to make sure that customer satisfaction remains high, that products delivered on time. So they did that, and they came up with, I can't remember the total dollar amount, but that was like the whole strategy of why they did it. And sorry, what was the?
It's more that, I mean, I understand. So I think most people don't realize that Coca-Cola doesn't bottle their own product.
Yeah, so
like that, it's a licensing model where they work with distribution and Budweiser and Coors, and that none of these large scale CPG bev brands bottle their own products.
Correct.
So I think explaining to them how that works is kind of an important thing. Set the stage for like.
Yeah, it's a good point, because it's done at the smaller brewery scale as well. So the idea is focus on your core service. So where do you add the most value as a company? So for somebody like Coca-Cola, they make the most or create the most value in their recipe, in their formula, creating the syrup. So they just create bags of syrup, and that formula is under lock and key. So the distribution or bottle canning centers have to buy the formula from Coca-Cola, so Coca-Cola can charge high margins, and they don't have to worry about any of the capital investment for $100 million facility. So cans, trucks, I mean, thousands of employees just in the Chicago territory. So it goes back to focusing on what you're good at, what makes you money, and then accelerate on that, and, you know, spin off the areas that are labor intensive and don't produce high margins.
So does anyone have a question about what exactly, because I've explained this to people so many times and people are like, what do you mean Coca-Cola doesn't make them? Like, they make something, but they don't bottle and distribute it. And so do you guys understand the model here?
Yeah,
Sort of.
yeah, basically just run everything, and then they get the other places to bottle it and then sell it from
Yeah.
there, right? Yeah,
They
okay.
license the ability to sell Coca-Cola, and then they sell them those syrup to produce it.
It's a license game, I see.
It's also,
I
it's
think I
also
understand
the
it.
takeaway is don't do everything yourself. Like when you can, focus on what you do best and then outsource like to specialists in the other areas to assure like the quality. So you're not trying to do everything at once and running yourself too thin.
And then Budweiser and Coors, and well, Molson now, they do the same thing for canning, right?
I mean, I believe so. And it's probably market by market.
Yeah. So I think it's an important thing to understand. Now, the next question I would like you to unpack is, I had this idea. I was in Greenpoint. I asked someone why they didn't make their own beer, why they didn't can their own beer, and they said it's cost prohibitive. And you said, what if I made it less cost prohibitive?
Yeah,
Would you
the
be-
origin story of your company. This is it.
Yeah, so that's a really interesting. So you found a value add for a potential customer. You pitched them the value add. They said, yeah, we'd be interested. And with that, you put a presentation deck together. What does that 15 slide, you know, I don't need you to give exact details, but what does it kind of say to a banker to give you a loan?
So, you know, it's the first page is always the elevator pitch, like you guys have talked about. It's, you know, trying to captivate their attention or get their attention. It's, you know, background. This is the current market situation. This is my basic business summary, and this is how I'm going to add value. These are some basic high-level financial information, how much money I plan on making, how much it's going to cost, and this is the investment I need. And then it's a specific ask to the bank. I'm asking for $250,000 for these 6 pieces of equipment. And then
Is there a reason you didn't go seek private investment from angels or venture capital? I mean, venture capital, obviously, you're not quite where you'd want to be for that, but like angel investors or hedge funds or friends and family?
I mean, I've been told for ever since school not to work with friends and family, not to borrow money. So that was advice given to me from my wife's uncle as well. I mean, he had plenty of money, and he said the bank is your best friend. In terms of private equity or angel investing, they're really not interested in a $250,000 business. So for a bank, 250,000 is right in their wheelhouse. It wasn't too hard. It wasn't asking too much. I think like over 500,000, they have to get some board approval. So it was, you know, it wasn't a huge ask for the bank. So that was the advice I received.
But it was just a $250,000 investment to get the equipment and get the business up and running. How much could it generate? And like, I mean, I'm sure the bank wanted to know, like, when are you going to pay us back?
Yep. So it was a 7-year loan. So that ends up being about $4,000 a month. So based on my calculations, I could make anywhere from 10 to 20,000 a month. So the numbers high level made a lot of sense. And the bank actually was funding a couple of the breweries I spoke to. So they were happy to see me supporting existing investments in their portfolio.
So
That's really interesting.
So then what happened? So that's pretty cool. So then what happened? So you rented this thing and everything went perfect and smooth, and that's why you're doing what you are now, right? There's
yeah.
no
So
lessons learned.
Yeah. So get this. So I spent $150,000 on a canning line because it was the latest and greatest technology. It's like buying a new version of an electric vehicle. Well, it just didn't work. It just didn't work the way they said it was going to work. It was having issues seaming cans. It was dumping fluid. And, you know, I spent $150,000 on this one piece of equipment. So now I'm stressed out. I have anxiety and nightmares about this machine. I actually had to hire a lawyer to get my money back. And I sent this equipment back, and I ended up doing more research and going with the less sophisticated model, but the model that's been around in existence for 6 years. And that was the best decision I ever made. And I'm happy with the canning line I use now. And that company 7 years later is still struggling. I actually get business from their customers because their canning line breaks so often. So that was probably the scariest moment of my life, to be honest. And it was probably the biggest learning experience, to where I will not go for the first generation. I will focus on, you know, something that's been proven.
And so now you've gone from that to basically working how often, making 6 figures and being able to spend time with your wife and kids, basically.
Yeah, so my original strategy creating this business was, how do I move out of the city and spend time with my kids? I was having a child at the time. So when I first started this, I mean, I was working every day, and, you know, 5, 6, 7 days a week. I was out in the garage fixing things when things broke. I mean, there's really no turning it off. So in hindsight, having a child the same time you start a business is not a great idea. I thought it was going to create a lot of free time for me, but it ended up being significantly more work than I thought. Now I've dropped down to 3 days, and January, February are the slowest beer drinking months of the year. So part of it's seasonality as well. So.
And I believe that you came up with some form that is very helpful for summarizing, right? Something you use at Accenture when you're consulting, something that you use.
Yeah. I'm happy to show that, Peter. I'm sure you've got some feedback on it as well. If you want, I can pull it up.
Love it.
Oh, is this like a go, no go form that you created?
Yeah, so this is a similar form, and I mean, you can add things and remove things as needed depending on the conversation. But this was any project over $1 million.
Can you close the Zoom? Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, had to go through. Sorry, my computer's just really slow. All right, can you see that?
Yep.
And you can feel free to move things around, but the idea is, you know, what's a brief description of your product or service? That's like the elevator pitch. High level costs and benefits. It's like, you know, you can get down to the nitty gritty, and you will in the appendix of your income statement, cash flow statement. But at the end of the day, with the bank, you're trying to pitch them, you know, how much is this going to cost? How much are you going to make? You know, when are you going to be able to repay it? And what are the key benefits of this project? Basic proposed start date, when cash is going to come in. So if it's like an app development project or something, you know, you might not see cash for a year or two. But if you're doing a service business, like, you know, creating beer label art as your business model, you could potentially see cash, you know, in 30 days if you start working tomorrow. So that's something as well that's important, and something a bank wants to see. Some of the constraints and dependencies, you know, you could, you know, make your assumptions for this, and it's dependent on, say, you know, producing a magazine at $3. Like, your whole business model could depend on, you know, certain assumptions that you make, and you want to list those out because you want to keep.
About that. So if you have like upfront costs or tooling costs or anything like that, does that go into the constraints and dependencies?
I would put that in the high level cost as a startup cost. So I like to break it out as startup costs versus like your direct costs. because then you can, more or less estimate what it's going to be to start up, but you can get really, really granular with your direct costs or like your cost of goods sold.
So do you want to just, we want to clarify every single thing. So startup costs, the upfront launch fee, you want to explain that, direct costs, and indirect costs, there's variable and non-variable, right?
Yeah.
And then cost of goods sold. Do you want to just kind of break down those three buckets of how costing sort of works to businesses?
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, the startup cost, right? That's like what you're talking about, like, your founder's salary or something. That's like, it's really kind of hard to quantify. You're not exactly sure how much it's going to cost. So you want to, estimate it as best you can, but it's, there's a certain amount of R&D required to say, create a new pair of jeans. If you're going to buy any equipment, that would be thrown into the startup cost bucket. Once you have your business up and running, it goes into like your operating costs, which is, I consider it the direct cost. So to create a pair of jeans, what's it going to cost? It's the materials, it's the labor to actually cut it and sew it. If there's any, warehousing space, that type of stuff. I guess that would go into the overhead bucket, but you really want to figure out how much does your actual product cost, and then anything else goes into the startup cost or the overhead. And I don't make it any more complicated than that. Peter, I don't know if you have any thoughts on that, but I try not to overthink it. It's really, do you know how much it's going to cost to make your widget, and how much are you going to make when you sell it?
Yeah, I always refer to it as lemonade stand economics.
Yeah. Have you heard of KISS? Keep it simple, stupid.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we use that at Accenture a lot. It's, you just got to keep it simple. It's like you could spend all day calculating if something's going to be $2.30 or $2.50, or you can just say it's $3 and move on. And if at $3 you're not making a profit and it's not a fun project for you, then you can identify that with very little due diligence. And then as you make those assumptions, you keep going back and vetting your numbers to make sure they're accurate. So that way you can, as the project moves forward, you can keep, refining your numbers to become more precise and accurate.
My next question is, so you started the business 7 years ago. You took out a $250,000 loan on a 7-year payment plan. When did you expect to start making money?
So I expected to start making money about 30 days after I received the equipment. So.
And was there a long lead? Was the equipment already built, or was there a long lead time to have it built?
It was about a 4-month lead time. So I negotiated with the bank, and it's actually standard with the bank. They gave me 6 months interest only. So my payment was only like, for the first few months, like $300 or $400, because you also only pay for what you draw. So I put money down on the canning line because I had a 4-month lead time. So I'm only paying interest on the first $120,000. And I didn't use up the full loan until probably 3 months later. So I was expecting to make cash almost immediately.
And then obviously you ran into issues. So can you walk through some of the early, like, I had to survive this mistake, you to send the other one back, order the new one. Was, did you have to, were you down the whole time waiting for the return of the other one? Or did you buy the new one while waiting to get the other one returned?
So a little bit of both. So it put me back probably 5 months. It delayed my start time per my business plan about 5 months. I was able to draw on my loan for a down payment on the new canning line while I fought with the company to get my money back. So that helped speed things up. It was the most challenging. They did not want to give me my money back. So it was very challenging to navigate that. But at the end of the day, it's, it put me back. I was able to you'll find as you ask for help, people are very helpful. So I went to my bank, and instead of hiding what was going on, I was very transparent. I'm like, look, my canning line's not working. I can't pay my bills. I'm going to need another 3 months while I wait for the canning line. And the guys just said, sure. He's like, I'll just delay your payments 3 months. And it was as easy as that. And I was
Wow.
actually pretty shocked.
So you get the canning line. Did you already have customers lined up? Did you do customer outreach and start building a sales funnel while you were waiting for the canning line? Were you like hitting the boots on the ground, going to different breweries and stuff?
Yeah, so prior to getting the loan, I had lined up 3 customers. And then while I was waiting for the canning line, I went out and found about 10 more. So I had 3 months to, go back and forth to Colorado, train on the equipment, look for customers, find a box truck, find insurance, all the details while I was waiting for the equipment. So that way, when the equipment came, it was in service the day it showed up. I actually I flew out to Colorado, and I drove the canning line home in a U-Haul. And I drove straight to a brewery and started canning the next day.
My next question is, I'm gonna think about that. That's pretty cool. So you had customers, what was your pitch to your customers? What were you trying to sell them on?
So at the time, there really weren't any cans. So 7 years ago, there were only a few breweries in cans. And, there's really, for a small brewery, it was either sell your beer in kegs or sell it in kegs to a restaurant or sell it out of your tap room. There really weren't even those like crowler cans. They had the growler bottles, but there just weren't many ways to sell beer 7 years ago. So saying I had a canning line and I could get their beer in cans, it really didn't take much of a sales pitch. It was just, all right, what do I need to do to start canning? And that's, originally I was going to get into label design and, artwork, that type of thing. And I quickly realized, similar to like the Coca-Cola model, like that's not my core service. My core service is just canning. So I partnered with some designers and more or less just introduced them to the designers so that they could, work with the can label companies.
So on that note, this is kind of a sidebar for a second, but we have a lot of talented design students. If anyone were interested in designing can art, would that be something they could reach out to you about?
Oh yeah, I know several breweries that, just the head brewer designs it and they don't like doing it. And you can tell by the quality of their artwork that they need help. So I'm happy to put you in contact. If you just went through a liquor store and you looked at the quality of the artwork, you can find the bad ones and you could just email those companies as well and just offer your services. It makes pretty good money. It's fun, and you get to, see your actual art design on cans and shelves, which is pretty cool.
So my next question is, I have more, I have lots of them. So, because, I assume this is a labor-intensive business.
Yes.
Especially when it's just you, or did you hire someone, or were you just showing up and being like, give me your beer and I'll get to canning? And this was mobile, right?
Yes, it's mobile. So it all fits in a box truck. So when I first started, part of the requirements of my loan is I had to keep working at Accenture, so that they qualified me for this loan based on my salary working at Accenture. But I tell the banker, I'm like, well, I'm probably going to actually be the one canning. He's like, well, you can't tell me that. You have to hire people. So for the first year, I hired 2 people to run the canning line, and it was, something I was doing, on the phone while I was at work working for Accenture. And then after I had a kid, it was more of a lifestyle change for me of, I didn't want to travel anymore. So now I basically took over lead operator of the canning line, working with one other employee.
Okay. And when did you start making money? Like, when did you start making enough money that you could leave Accenture? And like, what was like, when did you know you hit that point where you were like, can become my full-time job?
It took probably about a year. And it was probably the most terrifying decision I ever made. It's like I had a good job and I was financially secure. And to give that up for some random business idea that I didn't know if it was going to last more than a couple of years was very hard for me. And my wife's uncle gave me some of the best advice I've ever heard. And, you know, he's passed away since, but he said, the only thing you regret in life is the what ifs. So it's the what if you don't try this. So that was advice I took to heart. And then I just fully committed and quit and moved up to Northwest Connecticut on a farm in the middle of nowhere.
So about a year, you're making money. How big are you now? What do you guys like? How are you guys have multiple lines, multiple units? Like, give me an example of what your business operates like now.
So I am a team of one now. So I've figured it out to where I don't even need a second employee. So that cut, you know, about $60,000 in salary. And I moved into a canning line rental business model as well. So I have 6 other canning lines that I rent out monthly. They're smaller manual canning lines. So I run the one mobile by myself, and then I rent out canning lines to breweries who need them on a temporary basis.
So that's like KCBG needs to can some of their funky cool beer, and they rent your canning line. You drop it off. They use it for 2 weeks or a week, pay you for the uses of it, then you pick it back up.
Yes, I keep it to a month just to keep my drive time consistent. But yeah, that's the concept.
Okay. And so how does as part, like, you know, without getting too deep into financials, you know, of the 2 models, which one makes more money?
The mobile model makes more money. Still, yes. So that's like that's my core service, and then the rental is more just like supplemental income. And it's, you know, it gets breweries out of it's like equipment augmentation. Sometimes I rent like a labeler, or I got a nitrogen doser if folks want to can wine or cold brew coffee. So it's just another model. I also do maintenance. So if people own their own canning lines that break down, I'll come out and fix it.
That's cool. So 7 years in, you've got it down to the point where just, you know, you said you work 3 days a week.
Yeah, this time of year, it's about 3 days a week.
And then when it's your peak season, how often are you working?
5 or 6. Like come mid July, it's, you know, everyone's just trying to get a date on the calendar. January.
How quickly do you book out?
I'm typically like 2 weeks out if somebody wants a date.
Do you have got a lot of competitors in your space?
There aren't many. I have one main competitor, and they have about 85 canning lines and crews, and they are in, I think, 13 different states.
So that was my next question. Do you want to expand, or are you happy where you are?
So I do not want to expand. I've found that this works for my lifestyle. So it's more of a, like Carl was saying, it's more a lifestyle business for me. So I saw what my competitor was doing, and I could have followed suit. And at the end of the day, you know, it's similar to like a franchise, like a Subway. It's like if you run one Subway and you're the guy making the sandwiches, you can make you know, a pretty good living for you and your family. But if you want to try to manage a Subway, you need about 3 franchises to make enough money to support yourself and all your employees. So it's, you know, moving from one, I probably would have jumped straight into 3 or 4. And at that point, my job is no longer about the hands-on, which I personally love that the most. It's about staffing. I become a staffing agency, and I just answer questions all day and just try to fix problems. So I was trying to move away from that lifestyle at Accenture, where I'm just constantly on my phone and emails, you know, solving problems, to, you know, now I come home and, you know, it's pretty low stress.
Do you get a lot of free beer?
I do. I've got one of those commercial fridges in my garage, one of those 2-door glass fridges.
Those are both my questions. I mean, I know that you spoke earlier in the entrepreneurship class, and we're focusing very much on like what lifestyle entrepreneurship is. And I think there's some students here that are looking at lifestyle businesses, and some students that are looking at building something that, you know, requires investor capital or bank loans beyond, you know, like to get it up and running, and, you know, may not turn a profit quickly. So I think it's important to hear the differences.
Yeah.
You know, there's a book that I love called Small Giants, which is about, you know, companies that could have grown to be enormous, but they chose to stay small because that's where they were happy, you know?
Yeah. Yeah, you really have to ask yourself what you're looking for out of it, right? So it's, you know, my personal strategy was to figure out a business that allows me to spend more time with my kids. So that was my primary goal. And coming up with this job was a solution to that. The other thing, which is kind of funny, you know, the old question of what would you do if you didn't have to worry about money is really important to me. And I used to sit by, you know, the East River every day thinking about what business I wanted to create. And at the end of the day, the question, what would you do with your time if you didn't have to worry about money? And my answer was, I would have just toured breweries. I would have just driven around for probably 6 months and checked out breweries. So I had that in the back of my mind of, this is what I would do with my free time. Now, how do I make a business out of that? So that's how it kind of came together.
That's really interesting. And I think
Principle
that's
of
a good,
why.
What's
Yeah.
that?
Principle of why.
Yeah.
Simon Sinek, who a lot of these students will be familiar with. You start with why rather than a traditional model of what is the functionality. You know, you start with why am I doing this, and then you get to the functionality.
Yeah. One other cool approach too for starting a business is, you know, don't be afraid to get a job nearly identical to the business you want to start. So you can more or less use a company for experience. So if you want to say, you know, create a consumer good product, you know, get a job doing something similar while you're still hashing out your business plan, and then you just get relevant experience while you're thinking through the details. So a really cool model in the brewery industry is, you know, a ton of people want to start a brewery. Now, how do you start a brewery? Well, you need about $1 million to start a brewery. It's, you know, a lot of equipment. Now, the model, back to like your MVP business model, an easy way to do it is you can just pay another brewery to make your beer. You can spend about $15,000, get licensed, get insured, and you can create labels, do all the fun PR marketing work, and just pay somebody to make your beer. And I'd say about 30% of my canning business right now is from the contract brewery market. So I make and can beer for people that don't even own a brewery.
will you explain? So I think that's like a really important thing, because I've seen this in a lot of CPG businesses where there's manufacturers out there that bake bread or make candy or make beer, and they will do production lines for people. So this is like the MVP question of like, I want to make my own beer. I want to make my own whatever. I want to make my own ice cream. And then people come back to me with budgets that are like, and I'm building an ice cream factory. And I'm like,
Yeah.
why are you building an ice cream factory? You need a test kitchen, maybe a company that already makes ice cream, a recipe, and some packaging,
Yeah.
and a good agreement. So like so many times people come to me with MVPs and budgets to like scale their business to a point where they have to spend millions of dollars to even get it off the ground. And I'm like, what is the lowest level we can start at? You
Yeah.
know?
Exactly.
And what is your, and you can talk about this too, like you would take a loan out. So like, how do you balance risk in that understanding of business finance, how to put together a business, but like, you know, you are taking on risk by taking on a loan, and a $250,000 loan. I don't know if it sounds like a lot to students or a little. I mean, it seems like money is sort of like abstract now to college students. But you know, I know 7 years ago, if I had to take a $250,000 loan out, that wasn't like on an asset like a house, I would be pretty concerned that I would need to make money pretty quickly.
Yeah. So in terms of risk, you have to think about worst case scenario, how much can you sell what you spend your money on? So worst case in a year, if I wasn't making money, I could have sold my canning equipment to a brewery and, you know, maybe sold it for 200,000. So I would have been out like 50,000. Still a lot of money, but at least it's, you know, I'm not out $250,000. So as you're thinking through like your business plan, you know, it's a lot easier to get money for assets that you can sell down the line. So banks don't really want to give you money for salary or for operating expenses. So that's something you think about in terms, and that's way more risk for the bank too. So when I first started my business, I bought I think $30,000 worth of empty cans. Well, what happened was my canning line was delayed. And I ended up just selling cans as like a distributor and using that money to fund my cash flow. So that was paying my rent. That was paying my truck insurance, which the bank would not have been happy to see me do that. But, you know, when a situation like that comes up, it's, you know, you do what you need to do.
So you're just constantly adapting. Like one situation happens, you're just figuring out a way to keep it afloat because you know eventually it's going to work out. You just got to like do whatever you got to do.
Look, I think in business school, I heard cash flow's king like 1,000 times. And it's not until you're scraping money out of your personal savings account to make payroll do you actually feel what cash flow means. And it's like, it's real. It's like, if you don't have enough money to buy the materials to create your product, then you're out of business. And it's like, you know, you can only go back to the bank 1 or 2 times before they won't give you any more money. And it's
yeah, you can't go broke taking a profit, right?
so it's like your business may make money, but if you're say like land a sweet deal with Walmart, they're probably going to pay you in 16 months because they know they can get away with it. And it's like I've seen businesses go out of business, not because they don't make a good product and not because they're not making revenue on that lotion. It's because Walmart doesn't pay fast enough for them to keep up with manufacturing costs.
Walmart is actually like Walmart and Whole Foods. I've heard some horrible stories because their payment terms are so long, and they also do buybacks and they do all these penalties and fees. So yeah, I've heard some nightmares stories about dealing with Walmart, CVS. All right. You answered a lot of my questions. The only question I have left for you is sort of like young entrepreneurs. You know, most of the people in this are creatives, you know, Pratt students or affiliated with Pratt. So like, you know, a lot of creatives don't have business backgrounds. We have education in creating things of interest. So a lot of creatives have this sort of, you know, imposter feeling about starting businesses. And I always hear them being like, well, I don't understand accounting or law and I'm always like, you know, everyone who starts a business, like no one that went and got an MBA was taught how to start, you know, a small business. Do you want to talk a little bit about like getting over that imposter syndrome and getting out there and that like everyone figures it out as they go?
Yeah, there's a good, I mean, this like a course like this is fantastic. There's resources like the Small Business Administration that are there to support small businesses. So if you have finance questions, accounting questions, legal questions, you can always ask them. So when you're up and running, there's plenty of support. I would say the best approach is to find a team that can supplement where you fall short. So think about it in terms of like the brewery industry. Like brewers are artists. Oftentimes brewers don't even know how much a keg of beer costs to make because they don't think through numbers like that. So you're like, do you know how much you just put $5,000 worth of hops in that? Like, are you even making money selling the kegs? And oftentimes they don't even know, but they have worked with a partner or they bring in somebody that does know that information and that can help keep them on track. So I would, you know, if there's ever an area you feel short end, don't be afraid to reach out for help. But at
Great,
the end
and
of the day, the creative side is, in my opinion, the most important part. It's like, you know, that's really the nuts and bolts. It's like, I spent my career working on the finance and accounting side, but like, I'm not actually trying to come up with the idea. I would rather team up with someone like you that has the cool creative idea, and I can help take it to market with you.
that's what I'm always trying to sell my students on. I'm trying to sell them on, like, you know, just because someone went to school and understands the basics of financial models and spreadsheets doesn't mean they know how to bring your crazy idea to market, but they can at least check your numbers for you.
Yeah.
All right, well, I want to open up for questions. What questions do you guys have?
Todd, I just want to say, first of all, thank you so much for being here and sharing your expertise. I've learned a lot so far. It's pretty interesting to hear how you went from so many different jobs to canning. And I just wanted to ask my folks, they own a liquor store back home. I'm from Colorado Springs.
Oh, nice.
And yeah, so they are actually looking to change their line of work because they're struggling with keeping employees. I'm sure, like, you know, friends or people who are in the same position. How would they go into something kind of adjacent to what you're doing with canning, being like with that liquor store experience? I know that's kind of like a super vague question, but I couldn't help but think of them when you were talking about your story.
Yeah, so they're trying to get out of it because they're having a hard time finding employees.
Yeah, exactly. And they just work a ton, and it's really hard to balance their home life. Like, my mom works like 14-hour days, like 7 days a week.
Yeah.
It's like awful. And you were just mentioning earlier about what did you say? Personalizing your work and living like happily, right?
Yeah, it's like the
Yeah.
work-life balance, which is why I never expanded, why I never got more than one mobile canning line. You know, unfortunately, getting into another business, you're going to have the same problem with finding employees.
Yeah, definitely. But I just kind of wanted to put a note on there and say, like, that's something that's super important that made me think.
A
for
lot
sure
of
about-
a lot of good moves for liquor stores is to get into like a small tasting room adjacent to it. I mean, there's legal laws around it.
Yeah.
But then you could potentially just lease it out to somebody that wants to manage that business.
Right. Okay.
So at the end of the day, your parents would be more of like a leaseholder,
Mm,
and maybe the person leasing the property from you could hire your parents part-time as, you know, operations people to keep it running as a way to step out.
definitely. Cool. Thank you.
Mm. Nice. Any other questions? Any questions about your project specifically? I love helping out. So if anyone has any questions.
Any
have another-
finance or budgetary questions, like how you structure budgets to make it sense to a bank or an investor?
Yeah. So you said when you pitched to Chase that you just like went in there and had your presentation of like very specific timelines and numbers and all that. Like, did you have any sort of I guess background to that? Meaning, like, did you go in with like a super nice presentation? Was it very just like one-on-one conversation? How professional were you presenting yourself?
I mean, I could pull up a slide if you were interested, but it was probably like a 15-slide PowerPoint presentation. I mean, you guys are much more creative in your presentations than I ever was. But I present the data with what they want to hear, and I'm pretty good at knowing what they want to hear and only telling them that information. So, you know, what's the net income, what's cash flow, and what ask are you asking for, how much from the bank, and keep it really high level like that. And then as they ask questions, you can flip to the more detailed appendix with all the information, but making sure like your elevator pitch is solid and you've thought through the basics.
Okay, cool. And you say like looking for things that they want to see, meaning just like specific milestones of like financial stuff, right? Because that's like a big thing with dealing with loans is like trust. making sure you can give it back.
Yeah, and just walking them through in the right format. So it's like, what is your business? How much money do you need? When are you going to make money? Who's going to be working for you? Like it's not super complicated stuff, but it's making sure you tell them what they want to hear when they want to hear it, so that they don't have to ask many questions.
Cool. Okay.
So if you find yourself discussing detailed numbers, you're probably gone too far, which is the keep it simple method, right? So it's, you know, when we were doing $1 million projects for American Express, we would round to 10,000, 25,000, 100,000, 250,000. And we wouldn't go to much more detail than that, because, you know, at the end of the day, is it a $500,000 project and you're going to make $1 million, or is it a $500,000 project and you're only going to make 400,000? Like, you can, with, you know, high brush strokes, come up with whether or not your business is even feasible before you get into the due diligence and the, you know, talk to manufacturers about how much it costs for packaging. You know, you can get rough ideas, but then, like, you know, you'd have to submit product sizes to get actual packaging numbers, and like that level of detail is, you know, like almost like a phase 2 or phase 3.
Madison?
My question is, most of us here are working on B2C business ideas. I was curious what you would say the biggest differences between creating a budgeting plan for B2B versus B2C.
I don't know if the budgeting plan would be too
Or
much different.
finances, let's say
The
financial plan.
So B2B, I would say, and Peter, correct me if you have a different opinion, but you don't have to go as heavy in the marketing and advertising. Because if you're B2B, you know who your customers are and you can actually find them. So for me, like if you were to pull up Anvil Craft Services website, you would probably laugh because it's worse than a business card, right? Because I don't rely on marketing for my business. I know where breweries are. I can Google them on Google Maps and I just go drive to them.
Do you
So-
cold call them, or do you have a pretty good idea of who you're already dealing with?
I email, but folks in the brewery industry are most receptive to drop-ins, just showing up. I bring some quality control equipment, maybe some beer from a different brewery, and, you know, you just have a conversation with them.
Interesting. Yeah, I would say the B2B and B2C models, definitely, if you have to go find your customers, it's a marketing game, versus B2B, you're saying, I'm selling to this one industry, and hopefully you already know people in that industry, right?
Yeah. But in terms of the mechanics, you know, identifying how much it costs to make your product or service, like that's pretty much all the same. So I wouldn't say there's too much difference.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was asking because my main struggle, let's say right now with the project, is how do I predict consumer behavior in like what their total spending is gonna be, or
And
like
what's
the
your
average.
product or what's your business?
We're creating a subscription-based app that has events and services on it, basically.
For creatives.
Yeah, for
Yeah.
creatives.
So I think that is a perfect example of the MVP, right? So you want to get a bare bones product out there to get feedback as soon as you can to see if people are even interested. So get this, one of my buddies just sold his company for $30 million, and his business just creates prototypes of apps. They don't even make the full-blown
Mhm.
app. They don't support the app. It's literally just a prototype business. I
Just
didn't
the
even
UX design.
I didn't even know it, like a business would just focus on that part of it, but you know, he had 200 employees. So, you know, there are resources out there that you know, also like Gartner research, you can buy data, you can find the information in your industry. There's a lot of like industry newsletters that provide a lot of stats. Like in the brewery world, there's the New York City or New York Brewers Association, and it gives you how many breweries exist, how much beer they produce, you know, where they're located, what markets they serve. And, you know, you have to pay for the data, but that might be another avenue for you as well to get existing market research for similar apps.
Yeah, we haven't really talked about that, about like going and buying, you know, going and getting like your market's, you know, yearly annual data reports from Deloitte or wherever. But that is something that exists. So every single market, if you can define your market clearly and you know who your consumer is in said market, beer and alcohol, bev is clearly a defined market. You can go get all the data on what happened in that market last year.
Mhm.
And they are what, like 60 to 600 pages, depending on the market, right?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's way more information than you need. But there's probably some free versions too in your industries, you know, like I always scan trade shows. So like trade shows in your industry are very useful because even if you don't attend the trade show, they're going to list out all the different vendors and, you know, service providers for that industry. So in the beer industry, like, you know, even just the last page on their website shows you every person who makes a canning line, who supplies cans, who makes art, who makes hats, who makes, you know, whatever the case. So they have that for every industry, which is also a good resource for pulling.
Does everyone know what a trade show is here? Just like, you know, click a button, tell me. Okay. After the pandemic, a lot of the students never attended them in college. So like, I'd be like trade shows and people would look at me like I
That's
had
true.
5 heads and I'm like, it's like a place you go where there's a bunch of small businesses all set up.
Yeah, that's funny.
We have time for maybe one more question, or Carl, maybe you want to close?
Well, I was just gonna say, if you have any other questions, ask away, because this morning Todd was basically, who's worked as a professional consultant for a top consulting firm in the world, was giving like individual advice on budgeting and MVP development. So if you have any questions, go for it.
Yeah, and you can always email me too down the road. I mean, you're in good hands with Peter and Carl, but I'm always happy to be another voice.
Todd, I have a question for you. For people that do have questions or maybe feeling shy or maybe processing all this incredible information and have a question later, do you mind dropping your email so they can reach you in the chat?
Yeah, Carl, I don't.
I'll do it. I'll put, can I put your
No, I've got it.
He's
No,
like,
I hate to admit
this is why I left consulting, so I didn't have to be on Zoom when the world went to hell.
I do have to admit, this is probably only my 5th video conference call since COVID.
Well, look at it this way: if you still worked for Accenture, you'd be living on it. Do you have any? I have one question. So, like, you know, from the perspective of someone who had to go evaluate these giant businesses and their decisions they were making, did you guys ever finance any? Did you guys ever look at startups and have to do startup analysis and all that?
No, we didn't.
It was all bigger.
It was all really big companies.
Yeah, I have a good friend who's at Deloitte, and I'm always asking, trying to like pry startup questions, and she's like, I think in the hundreds and millions. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, like one of the last projects was, you know, you need to lay off 3,600 people. How do you do it? So it's like.
And now you work for yourself. So.
Yeah, exactly.
My question was going to be, you know, if there is any like red flags or do nots when you're, you know, at the end of this course, they're going to have to pitch live, and they're investor pitches. So they're pitching as if they were going to be raising capital to bring whatever business to market, and we're trying to determine like what their ask is, and then like what performance from that ask of, you know, 50 to a couple $100,000, you know, when they, you know, hockey stick up, and, you know, investors would want to invest in the business. Now, not every business that people are working on here is a business where venture capital or even angels may want to invest in, but the theory is giving them that experience. So like, is there any like red flag do nots that you should do when you're pitching to someone, you know, that you've seen?
You just need to make sure you have your numbers and that you know your numbers. So like, that's probably the most important thing. It's, you know, if you have to think about what numbers you have written down, like you should know for the most part, I make, $6 a unit. Like you've seen Shark Tank. It's like they're not flipping through an Excel spreadsheet while they're presenting that. It's, it's pretty high level. I don't know, are you familiar with the term swag? It's a sophisticated wild ass guess. At the end of the day, right, you want to get as close as you can, but you just need to be able to back up how you estimated it. So they're probably more worried that you thought through the process of, number of units and these are the input costs than they are about, are you $1 off per unit? Because they're going to want to trust you as a professional and that you've put in the due diligence.
Yeah, I think that's really good. All right. Carl, you want to close?
No, Todd, thank you so much. I think it's fascinating for like just hearing your incredible story and also sharing all of your knowledge. And
Yeah, thanks for having me. And if anyone has any questions, feel free to email me. I really like responding to people. So
that's awesome.
don't be a
Thank you.
stranger.
And also, if they want to do can art, they can also reach out to you, right?
Oh,
So-
yes.
Any ComD people who need a little side gig doing some can art.
Yeah.
Yes, you can actually see it on the shelves. It's pretty cool when you see them out in the public.
I would love that to see your work on cool, like artisanal beers. That would be amazing. Cool.
Awesome.
Thanks,
All right.
Todd.
Well, thanks for having me. Take
Cheers.
care,
Thank you,
everyone.
Todd.
All right,
Thank
bye.
you, Todd.
All right, Carl, do we want to take a 5-minute break and then come back and pick it back up?
I think so, definitely. Yeah, like I still need to process all that information download for sure. So
So it's 7:06, let's say it's 7:07 and come back at 7:12.
7:12. All right.
And then we have a couple more teams to go and then we'll get into the homework.
Right.
Sounds good.
Okay. See you then, guys.
That was great. Tell them thank you.
Absolutely.
I
Yeah.
can't imagine walking away from Accenture to go and like have to like run a box truck around and fix equipment and stuff. That's so cool.
I know, it's such a risk. Like you're getting paid like 200 grand, and then you're just like, all right, I'm risking everything. So, yeah,
Very
it's an
cool.
inspiring story.
All right, we're coming back. So the next up is due. And I just want to say before you guys get started, hey, look at you guys in the student union. I hope you guys like absorbed a lot from that, and I thought it was excellent. I do want to say like I created all these assignments based on working with other incubators and accelerators and reading books and working with clients. And I always thought the budget one was a good one, but I'm starting to think that I should be focusing more on MVP and customer acquisition. Like, how do you build something and then get customers? And then we talk about budgets and financial models later, because I think the budgets sometimes trip you guys up a little bit because you get so concerned about like, well, I'm going to need money for this and this and this. So like, over the last 2 semesters, I've noticed it tripping people up. And I think that you guys actually have done a very good job at it. But I think the most important thing is understanding your numbers and knowing that not all of it's going to be exactly right. And that like essentially budget numbers and financial projections are, as my friend Chewy says, they're hopes and dreams. They're, you know, we assume we need this much. We hope to make this much. And with your help in capital, that's what we're going to try to do. But like sailing, you're going to be adjusting your budget and adjusting what you need by what you learn as you navigate your business. So I want you guys to know that none of these are hard and fast set in stone. They're all sort of like, here's a good estimate of what I need based on my research. And the best thing you can do is do as much research as you can, so those numbers seem to make good sense to both yourself, so you know them, and to someone looking at them from the outside, like me, like Carl, or like an investor or a bank.
Peter, it's really well said. And that was my takeaway listening to Todd over and over. Like he kept explaining how when he had to sell things, he kept it simple, whether he's at Accenture or whether he's like, you know, talking to the bank, and to not worry about it, and to build in lots of like room and stuff like that. So I think that's a really, really good point.
And sometimes if you over, I think you said it right. If you over explain how much you like down to like the exact like penny for this, you know, it's good for you to know, but if you go tell that to a bank, they may start seeing holes other places. So, all right, let's pick it up with Duke.
Hi, let me share my screen. Can you see that?
Yep, looks good.
Okay. Okay. Hi, we are Do. We cooperate with the local arts and industries, providing outdoor art education classes for primary school students. And we also can help promote and inherit the local culture at the same time. So here is our MVP. Our MVP is a 3-hour event. Take IKEA as an example. The theme is to design a chair for kids' toy. So our course will be complemented by a design book. The 3-hour event is divided into 3 sections. The first section will be an introduction, including the theme, background, basic design knowledge, and so on. And the second part is the store hunting at the showroom of IKEA. Children need to find the corresponding chair through the shapes on the design book, and then complete the text, like measuring the size of the chairs. Then they need to communicate with the customers to understand their needs. Through this part of these activities, children can complete the market research and user research through the hunting game, so they can understand the design content, the design logic of chair, and the relationship with users, between users and chairs. Yes. And the next, on the basis of hunting activities, kids need to develop a persona for their toys, because this is our theme, design toy for their toy, design chair for their toys, and then do ideation, sketch, and prototype, and finally presentation by following the guidance of the design book. So in this 3-hour event, we simplify the design process and make it more interesting so that children can better understand design thinking and learn to find and solve problems. And here is the budget of our event. Here is also including the profit. Yeah. Thanks.
Can you go back? Yeah, just go there. Great job on the MVP. I think the MVP was super well laid out. I have a couple questions, but I wanted to just take a quick look at the budget. This is all RMB.
Yes.
And how much does each kid pay?
Here.
No, so that's what they're paying. They're paying 680 RMB per child.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. And you're limiting it to 9 children?
Yes.
That's a pretty small class for kids.
Yes.
I'm just, you know, I'm putting my kid's like a year old and I'm putting him in music class and there's like 18 kids in it and we're paying $350 for 9 classes over 9 weeks. So I would do a little cost comparison to see like what else is on the market. What's the age range for this?
What's age range?
Like how old, like 5 to 6 year olds, 6 to 8 year olds, 9 to 12 year olds?
9 to 12 primary school students.
Primary student, okay. So 9 to 12, and go back to phase 1.
Yeah.
So yeah, I would say, I think you first of all have 3 hours and 30 minutes based on your sections, if I was doing the math right. I think you'd want to pack all of the discovery and introduction into the first hour and have 2 hours of them designing stuff.
Oh.
Trying to get 9 to 12-year-olds super focused for 3 hours is very difficult. I have trouble keeping, you know, adult students in Pratt occupied for 3 hours without, you know, falling asleep and going on TikTok. So you'd want to shorten the introduction time and shorten the discovery time and then have a longer design time and a shorter presentation time. 3 hours may be a little long. Most of these things for kids, even in that age range, is 1.5 hours to 2 hours.
Okay, got it.
Secondly, do you have relationships at IKEA to make this happen, or is this just conceptual?
It's a conceptual.
Okay, that's fine. And for this purpose, that's great. I like the idea of partnering with a business and working with that business. I don't know if IKEA would love this, but maybe they would. But I guarantee you they'd want to do it for more than 9 kids.
Thank you, got it.
Let's go down to hold on, let's go down to your finances.
下一个
Last slide, or second to last slide.
再下
I saw a couple line items on your finances that I just had questions about immediately.
Yes.
On your budget. So your cost is 455 RMB for each kid to be there.
Yeah.
And then you're saying each kid is paying 688 and your profit is 51%. I am not sure. So if it costs you per kid close to $500 and you're making $700, that's not 50%. So just look at those numbers again.
Okay.
What's the transportation cost? Is that to get kids to and from IKEA?
Oh,
We will not pick up the kids, but the transportation is for ourselves.
You would not, that's not something we'd really include. That's not a bit, you can't, even when you own your own business, you can't, like, unless you're driving a canning truck around, like I can't charge like an hourly rate for me riding the subway to a client, you know?
Okay, so it also included the rate for ourselves.
Flyer printing, so you're printing one flyer?
Yeah, we print a very large flyer. That is our
Okay.
advertisement poster, something like that.
Okay, you might need more than that. Drinks and snacks, okay, for 10, quantity 10, space. If you're working with IKEA, maybe they'll give you the space. You know, they have huge places, you know? So, I mean, I would just think about it a little more. There's a couple questions as an investor, I'd be like, Why do you need money for that? Why do you need money for that? You know?
I see.
Okay, nice job.
Thank you. Got it. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, art of honoring, Karen.
没电了，操！我们还没带充电器啊！你没带充电器，
Good job, guys.
你看声音了。
I must say, I think this is was very challenging for me. So I try to do my best, but now that I see everybody, I cannot wait to really go back and redo it. I just wanna
This is one of the hardest sections.
It's literally, I'm asking you guys to create business budgets for businesses that don't exist. And I'm giving you a bunch of information, and so you're gonna kind of come up with whatever you can. So keep going.
Yeah, now let me wait for the start. So I redo my my logo, and this is the one that I have right now, and I try to make it a little bit as the website, my slide. So my mission statement is the same and still like it's a private virtual practice that helps owner family children to connect with their animal companions and their feelings, and creating long-lasting memory using therapeutic art techniques, because I'm concentrating in the now and the most minimum value product. That's why I decided to go with art therapeutic art instead of art therapy to avoid lawsuits, because I don't have the licenses. That would be more for on the roadmap. So to start literally just tomorrow, all I need is this latest like an LLC and my practice insurance, which is 128.24, a business entity. And I put the logo of the Taylor brands that is basically, I can do the LC, the business entitled. Then you have the paperwork and documentation. The telehealth and the HIPAA compliance platform is free. The website and social media present would cost me a website with a square spaces 75 a month, and then lastly will be I will need a bank account.
Okay.
Illegal.
That's not really a minimum viable product. That's more of the business mechanics that make your business just legal. So your minimum viable product is how you get customers into your door, what your program runs like. So your minimum viable product would be like, whether I'm doing watercolor or oil painting, whether it would be a group session or a one-on-one. So minimum viable, like the minimum viable product is what you're selling.
Okay.
Not what you need to pay for to be legal.
Okay. It's just okay.
This is the
I was
minimum
thinking
you
more
need.
like
This
what
is,
I need just to start.
this is the minimum. Yeah. Okay. Keep going.
So anyway, for all that will be a budget like to start at
Okay.
800, and
Okay.
basically my budget to start this business would be 53% the legal paperwork, and the other part it would be our materials, and then I only gonna spend 1% in social media, just only the website.
So how people are going to find you? How are you going to
Instagram-
get people interested in this business?
Instagram is free. I have also, because I did a thesis, I also have the testimonials and stuff. So
Okay.
it's
But let's
just-
say my dog is going to die and I want to do a session. How do I know you even exist? How do I know this business even exists? I mean, that's great that you did a thesis, but like, you know, you need to make people aware. So you need to take out advertising. You need to do press releases, write white papers. You need to get people excited about what you're doing so they know, oh my God, I'm at this horrible moment. My mom just had to put her dog down a week ago. And she was still struggling with it. But I'm sure if I told her, you know, hey mom, I know you're getting ready to go do this. Maybe you can go spend some time and do an art piece or something. She would have probably jumped at that opportunity. But the only reason I know about this is because I know you. And if the only way for me to know about your business is knowing the owner, we're not in a good place here. So you got to think about like the legal paperwork, whatever, $800, that is easy. The art supplies, probably need more than that. But I would say, you know, you more than anyone, whether you want like, maybe you don't want to do this at home. Maybe you don't want people bringing puppies and older pets to your house. That can be messy. Maybe you want an office space that, you know, in the Navy Yard, I'm just saying, because pets are allowed there, where people can come and you can dress it up and you have the art supplies easily accessible and people can make a mess and puppies can pee on the floor, you know, or older dogs that are incontinent can have an accident and it's not like they're shitting on your couch, you know? So I would think a little harder. I mean, I think your MVP, I'm not saying rent a space and like commit to a lease, but I'm saying like, maybe like try to find a place where you could book, do a pop-up for something. I don't know. This is every time with brick and mortar, it's tough. Or you do it at your house to start, but like, you know, all the legal stuff, it seems like is easy. It's really how do you get customers to be aware of your business and what is each, so what are you going to charge per customer?
So that's the next one. Also, it's completely online, so I don't, I don't need space. So I charge a package. That means that they have to commit to 6 sessions with me, and each session is 1 hour and 1 hour and a half. And this session will be 360. And I tried to do the COG, and I don't know if I did it correctly. I hope so. The math. So basically,
it doesn't work for something like this. Cost of goods is for consumer products. I mean, it can work, but okay. So I'm just trying to think about your model here. So I'm not sure I would want to commit to 6 1.5-hour sessions. I think that like, especially like, you know, I think offering it in different package levels, and also the fact that it's online, I might not be super interested in, because like, what if I'm not a good artist and I'm like struggling to paint, you know, or struggling to like, so like, you know, there's things, I mean, I think testing online is great. I mean, Carl, you have a background in some of this stuff. Hop in here.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's very tactile, you know, like painting. It's also in therapy. Yeah, you know, you have like BetterHelp and everything, but really a lot of the therapeutic element is when you're, and then you know this too, I'm sure, when you're in the room with the person, especially when you're in proximity, when they're with their pet and everything like that. And so I would be remiss, like I just love the idea of like being with someone has this beautiful caring energy in the room. And if I'm starting to paint, being able to kind of like be like, okay, we can do that, and then try the brush stroke like this, you know what I mean? And some of that is lost in such a tactile thing and in such a delicate thing where you're grieving this person that's, you know, been such a part of your life for like maybe 10 years or something, you know, your pet. So I'm talking out of my heart right now, but these are what's going through my head as I'm listening to all of this, if it's helpful.
it's very interesting because when I did I have like 6 clients in total, and all of them were completely virtual, and all of them say that, oh, I really like it this way, and I will not change the virtual space. And I was able to translate the benefit of the space. Yes, it will be better, but that will be more for the roadmap, like in the future, that I really want to have in a space that they can come in. But I like the idea of like maybe meeting in a park that I don't have to rent a space. Maybe in the summer, like workshops in the open space when you can bring dogs.
Yeah, and
I think it's interesting.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing for me is, I think Peter touched on it, but it's the committing to 6, right? So it's like, because for me personally, I'd want to first try it once and be able to be like, if I'm like, it's a cool experience, but maybe, you know, okay, cool, not exactly what I was imagining, but now suddenly I have to show up 5 more times. You know what I mean? So I think, if someone just says you can try this and you have the option, if it works out, to continue at a discounted rate, you know, for a package deal, then I don't feel that pressure, you know. And then if I have an amazing experience, then I'm like, awesome, yes, I want to get that package at the reduced rate, you know. So I think I would be intimidated without ever any kind of experience to get a package deal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think you nailed it. I think if you have proof of concept online, great. But I do think thinking about how you balance your payment structure and your offering and everything, like your MVP is what you're doing. If you're already doing this, that's your MVP. So just, you know, build it, file for what you need to file. If it's only $800, you know, at the end of the semester, I'm like interested to see what you're pitching for. To grow the business, maybe your pitch is that I need $20,000 so I can go brick and mortar and I can extend this. I can get a physical space. Maybe that is your pitch at the end of the month, you know, at the end of the semester or whatever. So,
Okay.
all right, very nice. Thank you.
Thank you.
I love the idea.
Thank you.
All right, Evoke.
Hello, good evening, everyone.
Hello.
So we are Team Evoke from Farm to Cup. We have my teammates Akanksha and Monica here, just to talk a little bit about what we are. So we want to provide food and secure students on campuses with nutrient smoothies.
Can everyone see the
Just
shared screen?
loading still.
No, it's still loading.
Yeah.
Oh,
Thank you for checking.
hmm.
And
Is it working now?
it's all white now.
Yeah. Do you want me to share?
Yeah, I'll try once more.
Okay.
There it is. I
Now?
mean, I see it. I see it. You can just present from there if it's not loading from your doc. You can just roll through it, the slides from
Okay.
without the slideshow.
Yeah, it looks like it works up until you press slideshow. So
Yeah.
maybe
Okay.
just do the old fashioned scroll.
Okay, so we want to provide food and secure students on campus with nutrient-rich smoothies derived from produce left over on farms and retail stores. The way that it's going to work is the produce that we want to use for the smoothies is going to be sourced from either farms or retail stores for crops that are either misfit or just aren't being sold. So once the customer wants a smoothie, they can either go onto our app and look at what the options available are, or they come directly to our store on campus for the smoothie. And the idea is that the smoothie is able to replace a full meal in terms of nutritional content. Our minimum viable product would be creating a variety of these smoothies in-house and selling them on the Pratt Manhattan campus. And for our budgeting, my teammate Akanksha is going to talk a little bit about it.
So talking about the budget for phase one, which is the equipment cost, which is the blender, we need $1,000 for that. A digital platform service that we want to start, which would be 15,000, office supplies 500, and travel costs 600. So phase one total cost would be $1,700. Phase two would be our soft launch, where the produce and grocery costs would be $1,000, packaging $1,500, university free sample testing launch, and the sample sale would be $800 for almost like 4,000 ounces of smoothies. Employment cost $900, transportation of produce $600, marketing and promotions $1,000, and office supplies $500. So that phase two cost would be $7,100, totaling up to $24,200. This would be testing our the service first with a few students before. And then after that, so that was from March to May. After that, the operating cost per month from May onwards, which is our fixed cost for rent, would be $6,000. The digital platform service, the maintenance of every month would be $500. Cleaning services $200. Inventory cost of all the produce and everything we get, which is of $2,400. And equipment, because we would be adding equipment, that would be $3,000. The umbrella business insurance would be in the fixed cost actually, which is $6,000. And the variable cost would be our phone bill, transport, which is $2,300, and marketing and promotions for that onward for every month would be $4,080, which is the monthly operating total is $24,000.
Not bad. All right, can you give me the next one?
And then the startup cost and operating cost for that month, like from March to May, then would total up to around $50,000, which we would need.
Okay. $5 a smoothie. I know we're not trying to make money because we're trying to help people at need.
Yeah.
So are we at least making enough money that we don't go out of business?
Yes, so
How
we
many
were,
customers do we need daily to buy a $5 smoothie so we can stay in business?
Actually, that's why we are at, we have this phase of testing out if people are buying it, if people, and then actually changing our strategies after that and like working. So it's like a research and development part of it. Because right now
The
we think like,
digital platform service, is that an application?
yeah, we want to
Yeah.
develop an app.
I have a question for you. Why can't we just be a very good mobile website?
It could be.
yes, we can.
How
be.
many apps do you have on your phone?
Like
How many do you
40,
use?
50,
How many do you use daily?
like 5.
Yeah, how many? Yeah, so like so much of I mean everyone wants to build apps. No one even uses the apps on their phone.
Yeah.
Like
Right.
I mean I'm just gonna I use mobile, I use websites that are optimized for mobile more than I use apps.
Right.
No,
Maybe
So
that-
you could reduce that cost down to $4,000 probably to just have a really well-built website that probably
Yeah.
2,000. Save
Maybe
yourself, you know,
Yeah.
Yeah, we were
$13,000
also
right there.
looking at it in terms of maybe we don't really, the concept of wanting an app was to make the process extremely easy for students. But since we are very campus focused, maybe they don't need an app. We could just have QR codes around campus that students could just scan, leading them right
Right.
to the
Love that.
website.
Now
And
you're
that-
talking. Now you're talking.
And that investment can go depending on how we're succeeding with all of this. So that can go on future costs.
Now, my next question is, and this comes down to, how do you get the rights to be on a campus with the fact that, like, I don't know the name of the Culinary Art, I think is the name of the Pratt one. They have the rights to serve all food on campus. Like, I'm not supposed to bring pizza from outside. I'm supposed to buy it from Culinary Art. How do you get around that bugaboo?
So
We did speak about partnering with like, go on. Then
So in terms of that, we were looking at as one, being able to develop a partnership with these universities. And also secondly, we did talk to Pratt about it and talked about having the sample sale on campus. They said that students are allowed to sell food on campus
Okay,
as long as it's approved by the student involvement department.
okay, that's all I need to hear. Good job, guys. I mean, you know, I think that this is a really big pivot from where you were, and it makes a lot more sense. And it's like directly getting what your goals are, what your value proposition is to your customer. So great job. Just think about those things I asked. Okay, Carl?
yes.
Yeah, no, I'm shocked by the pivot. And so, like, way to not fall in love with your idea and be open to, like, okay, what makes even more sense that I've learned from doing the market analysis. So kudos to you.
Thank you.
All right, Street Lizard.
All right. I don't really know how it works on the iPad to like share.
Should work. I think it
So I
does.
don't.
You can also talk us through it.
Yeah, I might just do that. It's pretty
You changed your
rudimentary.
idea,
anyway.
right?
What?
You changed your idea, right?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna leave that idea as a separate idea for now because I got my website up and running and like released a few items already. So I kind of just did it based off that because I had like data from it too.
Okay.
But
so what does your budget look like, and like how much do you need to operate per year?
Well, my budget to operate per year, I need about $9 grand.
Okay.
But also I have questions about that because like like products are kind of fluid, like they're changing all the time. So they're like, I don't know if that's very accurate.
So send me an email with it. I'll look it over and I'll send you feedback.
Okay.
While
Okay.
you're doing that, can you also just remind all of us exactly what your business is and like what does it address?
I'm just a designer that makes really cool stuff, and I think a lot of people want it. A lot of people have asked me about it, so I'm finally just putting it out there.
Great.
Yeah, send me your deck with your MVP and your budget, and we'll talk. And I'll send you comments. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Cool. Aroma Avenue.
Okay. Okay, so hi, we're Aroma Avenue, and we have to say also that budgeting was quite a struggle for us, and we definitely need to allocate more money to marketing. But just to recap, our MVP, our fragrance candle product, and also a candle making kit prototype, including the actual product and packaging. And then we want to do either a Squarespace or Shopify website for e-commerce. We are thinking about doing pre-orders before we actually like launch the product. And then we also want to do a 2-day pop-up event just to see how customers react to our product. We are currently thinking about New York City's farmers markets. And then for our budgeting, so the first part is our candle, the cost of making the candle and the prototype. And for each 5 ounces candle, it costs $5, 5.5. And we are thinking it could be lower maybe. And then for the kits, we're thinking 2 5 ounces candle making kits, including like the materials, will be $11. And we're thinking to sell for 30. And then we'll be able to profit for 12. Wait, is it 12? So, well, that if doesn't include marketing, that would be 19. But then we have to think about the marketing cost. And then the website costs around like $200 to $300 per year, including the domain. And then for the pop-up event, we're thinking about a local farmers market. If we did 10 weekends, it'll cost about $325. And then for the equipment and store cost, that's just an estimation. We're thinking about we might need like equipment to make the like for example wax melter and like buckets, but that can definitely be cut down as well. And for marketing right now, it looks kind of ridiculous. We only put 150, but we are open to suggestions on like how much we should think about for marketing price. And then so in total, currently our budget is $1,600, and we calculated that if in the first couple of weeks or couple of days, if we sold, if we have like 35 to 50 customers purchasing around $20 to $30, then we'll be able to like get back the cost for the initial budget. But that again, yeah,
So
again.
I'll just jump in. Are you done?
Yeah, the last one is just looking at how we are splitting the money.
Okay. Product development, product cost, marketing, pop-up store, website. Okay. Revenue. All right. You can take the revenue out of the that's like a different line item. Budget's like what you spend, revenue is what you make. So let's go back there. I have just one glaring one. How much is a candle at Le Labo?
Le Labo?
Yeah, how much is a Le Labo candle?
I think it's pretty expensive. Wait, is it like
$70 to $150? How much is a candle at Byredo?
Oh, that like 80?
More? Yeah, I think the big ones go for like $220.
Oh my
$12 for a really nice candle is like, I mean, you're just underselling yourself. So even like using my cost of goods, like multiply whatever your cost of goods is by 7. At 35, you're still below. Like a nice candle with good packaging, and I remember your packaging was pretty nice, should be $50 to $60.
Oh, Okay,
So
I
if it
guess.
costs you $5 to make one, you sell for 60, I'm happy. If it costs you $5 to make one and you sell for 12, I'm really depressed.
Yeah.
And if I actually think the fragrance making kit should be cheaper. So I would sell my candles for 90, even if they cost me 5, and then I'd sell my making kit for 50.
Hmm.
And that's going to change your revenue around very quickly.
Why would you say that kits should be cheaper, like to attract more people to buy, or?
Because it's not done yet.
Oh,
It
I see.
requires some DIY,
Right.
you know? Like the kit would be cheaper in theory because it's not a fully completed thing.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think for us, we were thinking about provide an experience by selling the kit.
That's
But
great. And I think that's awesome. I just think that like based on high-end fragrance candle market and what they sell for, I mean, I don't think I've seen one under $40.
yeah,
So you're
think-
way under in your retail pricing of the goods you're selling. And you're also under based on like basic profit margins. But then I also think that having the kit be more expensive than the fully finished candle doesn't make a lot of sense. I get that you're selling the experience, but I would just rethink that a little bit. Now go look at your competitors.
okay.
Carl?
Yeah, well, first, just like, is the reason that you price the do-it-yourself model more is because it would actually cost more? Material components?
Not really. It actually costs about the same.
Okay. So I guess that's that's what I'm wondering. So you price it more because if you're going to price it more as the experience, then you'd have to have some additional feature that would justify the price increase, so maybe like even if it's like access to like a guided video that's proprietary that you wouldn't get access to otherwise, something that would then or like a booklet or whatever it is, I'm just obviously making stuff up. So I think that's what was resonating with me. I love the idea. I also was like surprised by the price because even at my barber, like they have $80 candles, like, and that, I remember that threw me off. I'm like, at a barber shop, there's $80 candles, like right there. It smelled amazing, and stuff like that. So yeah, I don't know about these $220 things that Peter's into, but yeah, I agree with that point as well.
Okay, yeah, these are great feedback. I'm curious, like, because we are planning to include guided books, like booklets and stuff, everything branded. If all of that is included, would you still be interested if they are priced about the same, or do you still?
Yeah, if you can sell, like that I'm getting something in addition and something special other than just a not fully formed candle. Do you know what I'm saying? It's about, so part of that's also marketing and then explaining it and maybe an additional feature like a booklet or whatever. That's my instinct.
Yeah. So if all of that is included, do you still think it will make more sense that to be cheaper than the candle, or?
I think it could. I think it's always goes back to competitor research. Like I would, because then this has been tested, right? And so instead of you having to like kind of do guesswork and be like, I think this makes sense or whatever, you can like look to see if it's ever been done before. And then what were those price models, right? Because that's someone who's actually who did the research for you. And then you can then learn from that.
Thank you for your feedback.
Yeah,
I just have one
I think
last.
the rest of it, I think the MVP in general is really good though. And like trying to pre-sale, but you need to market, you got to market the hell out of yourself and get people excited about what you're doing.
Right. I just have one last question. So since we are a startup, we were just uncertain about how we can compete with brands like Byredo or, Le Labo. I don't know if
I'll
people
tell you right now, no one actually knows what the fuck they are. I mean, some people do, but like, you're never going to be able to compete directly with them because they have a huge marketing budget. You're just going to figure out ways to tell a story that's compelling to your customers. I have friends who have watch businesses that make millions of dollars a year, but they're not competing against Rolex or someone else. you're going to be telling the story of your company, of Aroma, and you're going to be telling this very compelling story of why I want your candle and not theirs.
Mhm.
And
Yeah,
the best way to do that is sink some marketing dollars and do some A and B ad testing.
And also, like, I'd be curious, just like, what got you interested in this? Was this something that was handed down through your family or whatever? And like, is there any kind of homeopathic like element, like all those kind of things that you can tell, so someone feels like they're sharing this like, personalized experience rather than just a luxury candle.
Right.
Just remember, everyone that's going into the soda business or the water business, or, they're not going and going, how am I going to beat Coca-Cola? They're like, how am I going to price my product in a way that my customers will buy it and I'm going to make a profit?
Mhm.
And then they go and tell a story and try to make sales,
Right. Stories.
And then one day Coca-Cola sees them and says, I'm going to buy you for $100 million because I don't want to deal with you anymore. It's true.
Yeah.
Coca-Cola pretty much acquires anyone that gets within their range fast as they can. All right, guys. So
Thank
one of the
you.
things I was talking about, and I'm going to share my screen now, is customer acquisition. And I just want to clarify what that means. When I was talking about that, generally they talk about a sales funnel, and that sales funnel is sort of this shape where people like discover your product, they have interest in your product, they do research on it, they have intent, and then they purchase. Purchase is the conversion of actually selling something, and that's really what we all want in business, whether they're buying our app or they're buying our app, they're using our service. And then if you do a really good one, you have loyalty. So, I've thought long and hard about the way this assignment's written, and I think it should be building an MVP and figuring out a customer sales funnel or a customer acquisition funnel. So it's one of those things I just want you guys to think about. There isn't really an assignment for it. But it is just something that I want you to be aware of. So when you hear me say customer acquisition, we always talk about the sales funnel, and it's like people find out who you are and they're like ping pong balls coming in. And then, when do they pop out as a sale? And there's all these things that have to happen within that funnel and it happens to every single one of you. Just think about when you buy things, especially new things you've never seen before. You're like, oh, that's interesting. Oh, let me look into more of that. Maybe you do a little research. Oh, I think this looks nice. And then you buy it. And then you determine after you buy it whether you like it or not. And some things you're like, I'd keep buying that over and over again. And other things you're like, that's kind of shitty. I didn't really like it. So, just think about how you would get customers and how you would keep them coming into your funnel, right? So your next assignment is on, hold on, let me continue sharing my screen. Is on KPIs and visual business roadmap. So KPIs is key performance indicators. So this is like, what goals do you have for your business? And I think some of you kind of started saying them today. I know Battison and Mia already have some. They're saying, we want to have this many members. We want to have this sort of traction. So it's going to be really important when you're presenting this to an investor to say, hey, I got this candle company, and if we sold 500 units by the end of the year, that would be awesome. So that's your key performance indicator. That's your goal, selling 500 candles by the end of this year. So you have 10 months left in the year. You got to get production up and moving. You have to get sales going. And if by the end of the year you sold 500, you're like, we really hit our goals. And that's what you're telling me as someone who wants to invest, that you are going to sell 500 candles this year. And I'm like, cool, I will support that. I added some articles here about like how to set goals for startup stages. So some people, it's going to be like, just get traction. Some of you are like, I have an idea. I don't know how to get people in. So like Karen, the art of honoring, you have some customers, figure out where did they come from? Why did they come from you? Why do they come to you? How do you get more? How do you build on that? So like, you got to kind of have goals. I have 10 customers now. I want 50 by the end of the year. I'm trying to think about other great ones. Production. Sometimes I just need production. Sometimes I need proof of concept. For some of you, if you really want to build a whole app and ecosystem, thinking of The first one though, the interior design studio, maybe getting that up and moving is the goal for this year. Like having a fully functioning app where I can use AI and see in AR the space. That's my goal for the year. But it's like, as an investor and I'm giving you money, I want to know, like, you've told me you need $50,000. You told me with this $50,000, you are going to do X amount of stuff in X amount of time. So you need to set a goal and you need to set a timeline to get there. And this is like one where I've noticed a lot of startups, they have lofty goals, but they don't have timelines. So the second part is creating a business roadmap. And the business roadmap, and I found this really cool one called SMART, and it stands for specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound goals. And like, that's like one of those things, like startups kind of can get like off into the clouds with ideas. Oh my God, and then we'll do this and this. So we want a specific goal. We want to be measurable. So I want 500 customers. Measurable, do I have 500 customers? Achievable, I already have 400, so I think I can get to 500 easily. If you're saying I want to have 1 million customers in 1 year, you know, it's specific, it's measurable, but it's not achievable. It's not realistic. And then the last is time bound. So, you know, I like some of these where you're kind of saying, I'm starting at this one point. You know, it's like traveling down any sort of roadmap or place, and we'll send this whole thing out. But you know, this is one for a really good one for web apps. You know, you define your problem. You know, I want people to be able to navigate cities better and take tours. I validate the problem. I've talked to people. They say that's what they want. I validate the market. It seems like there's an open place for it. You guys have already done that. So the next would be prototype and test. You know, build something. What's your MVP? Get it in people's hands. Find out if they like it. How much money do you need? Fundraise. Build that MVP solution. Build the next version. Make adjustments. At that point, you may need more funding. Some of you may make enough money already at some point where you don't need more funding. You know, that's even better if you don't have to go raise money. So it's important: date, name, goal, feature. You can do roadmap templates. You can do milestone templates. But essentially what I want you guys to come back to me next week is, we sort of have an idea of what our MVP is. We sort of have an idea what our budget is. Now I want to know, like, in 12 months, 18 months, 24 months, or 36 months, what your goal is. And some businesses take longer, like building apps, building electric motorcycles can take a long time. And some businesses may take shorter, you know. Finn, I want to get 100 magazines out. That could be 6 months. You know, you need to design the magazine, you need to raise some dough, you need to get production money, you need to deliver them. You know, so everyone's timeline is going to be different. But I want you guys to all think about the SMART acronym and give us specific, whatever, measurable. I can't remember without right in front of me. Time-bound goals. So does that make sense to everybody?
Yeah. So it's just like 2 or 3 deck thing we're delivering for next class, right?
Yep. It's literally, yeah. It's like, what are your goals? What would you consider successes for a startup MVP? You know, you have your MVP. What would you consider it a success in testing it? Is it making money? Is it getting a certain amount of users? Is it 100 magazines? How long is it going to take you? And showing me what that pathway is to get there.
Okay. Cool.
Carl, you want to add anything?
Yep. So for next class, it's 6, and then it's the final one before we have session 7. And so session 7, we're literally doing a practice pitch. It's a lot of it. I believe we're getting DK to come in.
He hasn't confirmed yet, but hopefully.
Okay. So we're gonna get somebody really good, and then we're gonna finally have the pitch competition. Next session, Catherine Jacobson, who is the winner of the very first year of this contest, as a fashion undergrad, won the contest, successfully launched a sustainable clothing line, and then adapted it to an undergarment, line made from seaweed called Esme. And we're going to send you stuff. She's incredible. And what's great is you can really relate to her because she was an undergrad just a few years ago when this happened. And so she's gonna walk you through going through accelerator programs, her entire process, how she's adapted. And so I think it's gonna be perfect and fit in with this.
Yep. Thank you guys. Thank you for all the hard work.
Thank you guys.
Guys are killing
Appreciate it.
it. I'm really impressed. You guys are really killing it. Great job, everybody.
Thank you. It's trial and error, but we're getting there.
I mean, I start businesses all the time and I work at I mean, it's all trial and error. Even with people that really know what the frick they're doing, it's still trial and error.
Yeah, I always thought like making budgets and things like that needed to be like exact dollar amounts, but like no, you just at the end of the day, it's kind of a guess. You don't really
It's
know.
like Todd was saying, yeah, just ballpark it, you know? They want to know that you're confident in that you've been thoughtful and you can back up what you're saying less than do you have the cent average or whatever.
Yeah.
Cool.
Great. Thank you guys.
Appreciate you guys. Take care. Have a great week, and we'll see you.
Thank you.
See you in 20 days.
Great job. Remember, everybody has imposter syndrome.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I was just wondering, like, is there a class that I could take next semester if I'm interested in just continuing to learn about entrepreneurship? Like, what classes are offered at
What
Pratt?
year are you?
I'm a first year grad student, so I have one more year.
So we have an entrepreneurship program, but grads, it's only offered to undergrads right now.
Oh,
So there's an entrepreneurship 200, which is mindset of the entrepreneurship. I teach one, Carl teaches one. There's entrepreneurship 300, which maybe you could take, which is a pretty good one. The guy who runs his name is Chris Schramm, and he does a lot of group entrepreneurship studies and like business building activities. And then we're adding a 400 course, which is going to be way more like the nuts and bolts and like legal, financial, accounting with a business professor from Montclair State. And that'll be ENPR 400. You'd have to check with your advisor if it's available to graduate students.
okay. Sounds good. Thank you.
Now, if you want to launch a product, my crowdfunding class is open to graduate students. But it's very product based. It's like come here and it's like launching a product on crowdfunding for like real capital. So it's like directly like you come, you build a crowdfunding campaign, you shoot a video, and you can press go and raise money.
Oh, awesome. Wait, what is that class called?
It's a prototypes class in the ID department. I believe it's called either the art of crowdfunding or crowdfunding and design entrepreneurship. We meet on Monday evenings.
Okay, awesome.
And it's open to
Thank you.
both grads and undergrads.
Thank you.
Later.
Take care, guys.
Peace.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Carl, don't leave.
Okay.
We can throw everyone else off. So I'm going to put in waiting room and no, put that one. So we need to figure out judges.
Yes.
I was like, I have judges for classes in May, but not for this one.
I know it's crazy that we're already in March, right?
Yeah.
And so we have this,
So
let's see. What do you?
like, yeah, the question is, who do we want to have come in? I can start thinking about it.
Yep.
Is there anyone that you know that you think would be good to bring in that's just easy to come in?
Not off the bat, you know.
So I have one professor, Deb Johnson. She used to run the ID department. She ran the incubator,
She ran the
fashion accelerator.
Mhm.
So I think she would be willing to do it, and she's great, and she understands this stuff.
Awesome.
So I think Deb is one option. I'm trying to think. I mean, out of my network, there's other people I can start hitting up, but I just want to see if you had anyone you had thought of already before I start just like chucking names at walls and seeing who comes out the other
No,
end.
let me think about it. Like I can think outside the box. Like the woman I brought in last year, I thought did a great job. Who created her own product line, you know.
If she wants to do it again.
Yeah, so I could reach out to her. There's a guy who started his own business, Spoon and Fork. He was so there's a few people in mind. Let me reach out to some folks. And
I think Deb, if she's here, and I think she will be, but she does spend weekends away. She has a house in the mountains. She does take off at the weekends a lot. But if she's here, she would be a great option. She's seen pitches, she understands it.
Okay.
And obviously she's within the Pratt family. And then I'm trying to think about who else. So I'm going to make a couple other, I'm going to start kind of just thinking about it and reaching out to some people. And I suggest you do the same.
Yeah, I know a professional actor. His name's Carlos. He literally funded his own film where he ran across the country. So I'm thinking like, you know, it's outside the box. I'm thinking what's in my network. Obviously, I don't know the same breadth of entrepreneurs that you do, but I know people that have been very successful by just being smart and entrepreneurial, you know.
Yeah, it's not that, yeah, I mean, that's the thing is exactly like, it's just, we kind of just want people that have
discerning.
Yeah, that just will provide good feedback.
Oh, do you also know anyone like at all who
I did take a class called Strategic Technology, and the instructors over there were, I mean, we also did a similar thing, very obviously smaller scale, had some business ideas, pitched those, whatever, but I can think of them, my professors there, and there was a previous professor who everyone talks highly about, but I haven't met, but you know, off the top of my head, that could be an option, but I don't know if we would have to reach out. And they're like not like in-house professors, obviously. They're people from, you know,
visiting.
Yeah, visiting, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I'm technically a visiting professor as well, or whatever. I'm like adjunct visiting or whatever it is.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, I mean, I got some people. It's really more. It's who do I have local that can show up?
Right. I'm pretty sure I can come up with somebody. I just have to like, you know, I have to reach out and just see like, are they available on that day? You know,
Yeah.
I have some people in mind for sure.
Yeah.
How many do we need? We probably want to aim for 3.
3 would be the target number.
Okay.
That way there can be a tiebreaker. 2 agree and then 1 tiebreaker, you know?
Yep.
That's sort of my like rule. I am gonna run a class this year with just 2, and I'm gonna see how it goes. But
what do you mean? You mean for your
crowdfunding?
Okay.
So for crowdfunding, I'm gonna do just 2 and see how it goes. And it's 2 that are friends, which is even gonna be more ridiculous.
Yeah, I guess I was gonna say we had 2, but I guess we had 2, and did DK kind of like Zoom?
Yeah, we had him on like an iPad.
That's right. So we technically had 3, but it was a pain in the ass because we had
it was a pain in the ass, and I don't want to do virtual. So I'll ask Deb.
Okay, I'll put out feelers. I'm sure I can find people. So
yeah, if she's here, I bet you will do it. And if not, then there's other people I can also talk to.
Okay.
Should we get Anita to do it?
Huh?
Just kidding. I said, should we get Anita to do it?
Oh. That'd be fun, right? Because she's never seen it. So I don't know Anita the way you know. I just talked to her once, but I really liked her, you know, when we're on Zoom. But the other thing I was going to ask you is, a few weeks back, I wrote to her. I emailed her and I said, hey, Anita, the class is going great. We're like 4 weeks in. I'm actually going to use your Ignite as you suggested. And it's amazing. We have 11 students in addition to Peter's full class. Let me know when you want to meet. I'm here on Wednesdays and Thursdays every week. And I didn't get a reply. So
yeah, she's
just busy. Like swamped, right? And then is it appropriate to CC him to see kind of act as an administrator?
Absolutely, and you can CC Donna as well.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I talked to her. I talked to her about your class. You don't have to hang for this, but you're welcome to if you want. But I talked to her about your class, and she said we're still debating whether we want to add the second section. We can always add it later. And I said, well, for Carl's planning, I think we should add it now, and then if we have to take it back, we can. And that's not, you know,
especially for space, right? So that then we can get a class.
And then Eric said the exact same thing. Eric goes, "Let's add it now, and then we'll figure it out."
Right.
So you know, and I said, you know, even if we end up with 12 and 12, it's not the worst thing in the world, you know, like if kids can split a little more, so then I have less also because you get more done with less.
Oh yeah, no, it's a wonderful just having 11 because we can get through stuff, you know.
Yeah, I have 11 in my crowdfunding class and I love it.
Right.
So, you know, I think that after that conversation, I'm pretty sure they're going to add it. Same time, same place. And then we'll have the conversation on Wednesday about 400, you know, and I'm going to make the case that maybe the Ignition Lab shouldn't be a 400 course because of, you know, how it's run currently, and we'll talk about why.
Yeah, my understanding was Ignition Lab, they're just
Yeah, but Rhonda still wanted it to become a 400 level course.
Oh, she did? Okay.
Yeah, she hasn't let that go. And that was like what the conversation was. That's what I forwarded you. But I think that the 400 level course, because they do a lot of what we do in Ignition Lab in the 200 level and in the 300 level, the 400 level course should be more like business.
Oh,
you know,
absolutely. No. I don't know if that's what Rhonda thinks, to be honest, because when I spoke to her, I don't know. I have to talk to her. I'm going to talk to her next week. So, actually, we're talking to her next week.
Yeah, same time. Yeah.
Yeah, it's hard. I don't know if you know this, but she's sick right now. Yeah, so she's she caught it early, but she's dealing with some breast cancer.
Oh no.
So,
well,
so that's why she's I just want you to know that only because it provides context for why she's she's always remote. And so because she's always remote, she literally said to me, Carl, I'm dealing with a lot because it's very treatable. Like, both my stepmom and mom went through it very successfully. And if you catch it early, it's like super high treatment, but it's a lot to go through. And she goes, Carl, basically, I'm not gonna be able to check in with you all semester because I can count on you. So, sorry, buddy, but I trust you to run it. So because that's why it's very hard for me to talk to her about this kind of stuff.
Okay.
And I haven't had a single meeting with her.
All right. Well, I mean, that's fine. I mean, I think that you, me as Milda and her can hash out how we think 400 should run.
But yeah, the final point is, though, how I left it was my understanding was, and she seemed to be in support of it, that exactly what you're saying, and that the Ignition Lab, we're going to replace it with things like the podcast and those initiatives completely, rather than trying to fold it into something.
Yeah. Okay. That's great. That's great news, because Anita was under the impression that we were rolling it, because that was the last conversation we had in the fall semester.
Yeah, I don't think that's it. So, but we'll figure it out, and I'll figure it out. We'll figure it out together. But that's my understanding.
Great. Yeah. So I'm pushing to get your class on the books. We're definitely putting 400 on the books. We just don't know what it's going to look like yet.
Okay. Thank you. And I'll get on the speaker or the judge for the pitch.
Yeah, me too. All right. Later.
See you guys. Take care.
Bye.